Chapter 932. Ningqing didn't speak at all. He just calmly looked at this Dao transformation powerhouse in front of him. Ruoxi didn't have any spirit crystals, nor did she have anything to exchange with the other party. Not to mention, she knew that Ningqing's negotiation skills were much better than hers. The Dao transformation man naturally understood Ningqing and Ruoxi's attitude. He took the initiative to cup his fists and said, "Let me reintroduce myself. And Jihan, I have a nickname, Shattered Rain Demon Sage." Speaking of the Shattered Rain Demon Saint, only a few people in the Grand Essence domain didn't know about him. Although he was a Crucible Transformation Holy Emperor, he was definitely a powerhouse among powerhouses. Moreover, he was a demonic cultivator. His actions were ruthless and extremely slippery. Some large sects were not willing to become enemies with him. And Jihan thought that after he said his name, Ningqing and Ruoxi's expressions would change. What he didn't expect was that neither Ningqing nor Ruoxi showed any signs of surprise. Within Jihan's eyesight, he could naturally tell that the two of them were really not shocked. They were not pretending to be calm. And Jihan, who originally wanted to use his fame to gain an advantage, could only take a deep breath and say, "If I'm not mistaken, you just took out a spirit essence pill, right? Even the spirit essence pill isn't this powerful." Ningqing showed a faint smile. "The medicinal pill I took out is not the spirit essence pill, but the main ingredient is similar to the spirit essence pill, divine chalcedony. As for the effect, I believe that even 5 spirit essence pills might not be as powerful as this one pill of mine." The name of this pill was the Empyrean Consciousness Transmutation Pill. It could expand one's sea of consciousness, strengthen one's spiritual sense, cut off the impurities in one's spiritual sense, and even heal one's sea of consciousness. It's not wrong to say that there's no market for it. Not to mention in Jihan, even Ruoxi's expression changed slightly. This pill was also very important to her. "Please bid, friend. I'm willing to buy this medicinal pill." And Jihan spoke with a deep voice. He no longer regarded Ningqing as an eternal-level cultivator. So what if a cultivator with such a heaven-defying divine pill was an eternal realm cultivator? As long as he casually took out some elixirs, there would be a bunch of first-step Dao validation experts following him. The beautiful primordial Dao woman in front of him was an example. According to Jihan's speculations, Ningqing not only possessed such a pill, but could also refine such a pill. Otherwise, the Dao essence woman beside him would have already killed this eternal ant and robbed him of his belongings. And Jihan thought that Ruoxi was a cruel and merciless person like him. "The reason why I found you is because you have a bottle of dark void milk on you." Ningqing spoke with a smile. And Jihan's expression changed, and his tone became somewhat disappointed. "You want the dark void milk? Then I'm really sorry. Although I really want the Empyrean Consciousness Transmutation Pill, I can't exchange it for the dark void milk. Otherwise, I wouldn't have spent more than 10 million divine crystals to buy a bottle of dark void milk. This thing is very important to me." After saying that, and Jihan even slowly stood up. His tone and actions showed that although he really wanted the Empyrean Consciousness Transmutation Pill, the dark void milk was more important to him. Ruoxi's expression also changed drastically. If she couldn't exchange for the dark void milk, how could she go back? Ningqing showed a slight frown. He did not expect the dark void milk to be so important to Jihan. Just as he was about to suffer a loss and take the dark void milk, his heart suddenly stirred. And Jihan had definitely lied just now. The dark void milk wasn't that important to him. If the dark void milk was really that important to him, he wouldn't have deliberately misstated the price of the dark void milk. It was clearly only a little more than 7 million divine crystals. Yet he insisted on saying it was more than 10 million. What's more, if such a thing was really important to him, he wouldn't have stated the price. Seeing Jihan walk out and Ningqing not moving, Ruoxi felt extremely anxious. This thing belonged to Ningqing. If Ningqing didn't speak, she couldn't make the decision at all. But now that Jihan wanted to leave, even if she couldn't make the decision, she couldn't care less. She suddenly stood up and was about to chase after him. Ningqing raised his hand to grab Ruoxi's wrist. However, Ruoxi's cultivation was much higher than his. Her hand shook and avoided Ningqing's hand, allowing Ningqing to grab her dress. Let go. Ruoxi frowned slightly. She still wanted to use Ningcheng, so she couldn't attack Ningcheng. Ningcheng calmly said, "This isn't the only bottle of dark void milk. Since the other party has an important use for it, I have a way to get my hands on some dark void milk. It's just a little more troublesome. You can get." Ningcheng didn't wait for Ruoxi to finish and waved his hand, motioning her not to continue. At the same time, he stood up and said, "Let's go. We'll talk about it when we get back." Ruoxi had already reacted. Ningcheng was lying. This was a psychological tactic. If Ningcheng could really get his hands on dark void milk, he wouldn't have come here with her, nor would he have asked her how to activate the opening Heaven Child talisman. And Jihan walked out of the box and saw that Ningcheng didn't stop him. He knew that his strategy had failed. As for Ningcheng saying that he could get dark void milk from other places, and Jihan didn't take it to heart at all. He wasn't in urgent need of dark void milk, and he also knew that this thing couldn't be obtained easily. But even if Ningcheng lied to him, so what? He wasn't in urgent need of dark void milk, but the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill. He knew that this was the other party's psychological tactic, but he had no choice but to come back. Knowing that the other party could find dark void milk was a lie, he would still be affected. And Jihan sighed. His Tao heart was still lacking a little. He couldn't remain still under the influence of external objects. Without waiting for Ningcheng and Ruoxi to walk out of the box, and Jihan returned again. He didn't feel embarrassed at all. Instead, he spoke to Ningcheng and Ruoxi with a solemn voice. "I just thought about it, and I do need dark void milk. But if I have enough Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills, I'll accept it." Ningcheng smiled. Sure enough, it was like this. Ruoxi remained calm. When she realized that Ningcheng had used psychological tactics, she understood that there was something wrong within Jihan's words. "Here's what I'm thinking. If Holy Emperor Shattered Rain has a bottle of dark void milk, I'm willing to pay 2 million high-rank spirit crystals, plus 5 Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills. The one I gave you as a sample just now, count it as my gift to you." Ningcheng didn't sit down at all, and spoke directly. Seeing Jihan about to speak, Ningcheng stopped him in front of him and said, "I only have these things. If Holy Emperor Shattered Rain is willing to exchange, then let's exchange. If not, then we'll find another way. I can still get a bottle of dark void milk worth more than 7 million. When Jihan saw that Ningcheng didn't even have the intention to sit down, he understood that this was the only way. If he didn't agree, then he wouldn't be able to obtain the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill. Ruoxi also felt relieved when she saw Ningcheng and Jihan successfully exchange. "I owe you a favor today. I will definitely return the spirit crystals I owe you." As soon as Ruoxi and Ningcheng returned to the rest stop, she took the initiative to speak up. Ningcheng waved his hand. "We don't owe each other anything. I have an opening Heaven Talisman Child Talisman, and you also have one. I will now give you the dark void milk, and you can help me restore this child talisman." Ningcheng didn't know how to restore child talismans at all. Even if he had the materials, he didn't have the means to do so. Ruoxi nodded. Even if Ningcheng hadn't said it, she had already planned to do so. When she told Ningcheng that the child talisman required 2 kinds of materials, she immediately understood what was going on. 2 dim child talismans were placed in front of Ruoxi. Ruoxi raised her hand, and the 2 child talismans floated in front of her. She began to lay down restrictions one after another, wrapping around the child talisman. Then she took out 2 black jade bottles. Ningcheng guessed that the 2 jade bottles that Ruoxi had just taken out should be the extreme heaven rain trace. After half an incense stick worth of time, Ruoxi poured the 2 bottles of extreme heaven rain trace into the restrictions she laid down. She then opened the jade bottle of dark void milk and poured it in. A mysterious fluctuation of the laws of space formed in front of Ningcheng, making Ningcheng feel as if he was at the edge of a dark void abyss. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness couldn't see the changes at all. He could only feel the repeated exchange of the laws of space and the tearing aura. Ruoxi's hand seals grew faster, and in the end, even with Ningcheng's powerful spiritual consciousness, he could barely see some traces. Ningcheng secretly rejoiced in his heart. Fortunately, he had given everything to this woman. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have been able to complete this kind of thing. Another 2 hours passed, and 2 golden lights radiated from the restrictions in Ruoxi's hands. Then the surrounding restrictions disappeared completely, and 2 palm-sized pale golden talismans fell to the ground. Sure enough, it was a child talisman of the opening heaven talisman. It was exactly the same as the child talisman that Song Wei had given him. Ningcheng was just about to grab one of the child talismans when he found Ruoxi sitting in the same place with a pale face and trembling all over. Powerful spirit essence and spiritual qi had been sucked away by her, forming a faint vortex around her. From the looks of it, she consumed a lot of energy. Ningcheng had a better impression of this woman. He took out 2 jade boxes and put the 2 child talismans of the opening heaven talismans inside, putting away the one that belonged to him. He then placed the other one next to Ruoxi. After an incense stick worth of time, Ruoxi opened her eyes and glanced at Ningcheng before saying, "Thank you. I should be the one thanking you. I'll put away this child talisman." Ningcheng raised the jade box in his hand. "Cheng Nianqiang should be your pseudonym, right? What's your real name?" Ruoxi smiled slightly and put away her child talisman. Although Ningcheng's cultivation was far from Ruoxi's, after this cooperation, the two of them had become less wary of each other. Ningcheng didn't hide it. "My name is Ningcheng. Among the Tao-confirming powerhouses I've seen, few are willing to talk nonsense with eternal cultivators. You're an exception." Ordinary Tao-confirming cultivators would never talk so much nonsense with an eternal cultivator. Ningcheng wasn't wrong to say that Ruoxi was an exception. Ruoxi smiled. Back when she was in the Tao sculpting realm, she also wouldn't talk much with eternal cultivators. It had nothing to do with looking down on them, but it was a kind of realm. Until she met that heaven-defying man. When she first saw him, he was just a small immortal emperor. In terms of this plane's realm, he was an eternal cultivator. But a few years later, she could only look up to him. That man had called the immortal goddess sacred sect a group of inhumane fake Taoist priestesses in front of her master. Even spitting in front of her master, the immortal goddess sacred sect could only endure it and accept it. Since then, she had never underestimated any eternal cultivator. Moreover, she felt that Ningcheng had a similar temperament to that person's. Chapter 933. In the Grand Essence Domain, there had always been a saying. Of the 10 major sects in the Grand Essence Domain, 5 were on the ground, 4 were in the sea, and 1 was in the air. The only sect in the sky was the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. Ningcheng and Ruoxi arrived outside the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond, and understood why such a saying existed. To be precise, the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond was composed of a huge mountain range, and a 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Peak. The mountain range was naturally still on the ground, and what was truly built in the sky was the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Peak. Many disciples usually couldn't enter the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Peak. This time, the marriage between the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond and the 7-star Sacred Sect opened up a separate path to the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Peak. Entering the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's central 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Peak, one didn't need to pass through the surrounding mountain ranges. 2 cultivators stood guard at the entrance to the center of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. Faint clouds stretched from the ground to the sky. In the faint clouds, there was a vague staircase. The 2 cultivators guarding the entrance of the stairs, after checking Ningcheng's invitation, made a pleased gesture to Ningcheng, allowing Ningcheng and Ruoxi to climb the stairs. "It's a spirit artifact, but it's not of a high grade." Seeing Ningcheng observing the steps under his feet, Ruoxi took the initiative to speak up. Ningcheng was an artifact crafting grandmaster, who could refine middle-grade spirit artifacts. Therefore, he naturally knew that the staircase under his feet was a spirit artifact. Moreover, it was only a middle-grade spirit artifact. The reason why he was observing it was because he had never forged such an auxiliary divine artifact before. The stairs weren't short, but to show respect for the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond, the cultivators on the stairs didn't seem to be in a hurry. Ningcheng and Ruoxi naturally didn't dare to act rashly. The 2 of them walked up the stairs for half an incense stick's time, before they arrived in front of a huge pool. There were a few big words in front of the pond. 1 revolution sacred Tao pond. The surface of the pool was shrouded in white mist. There was nothing on the surface of the pool. Ning Cheng's spiritual consciousness swept out, but could not sweep even half a step into the pool. When the female cultivator who received the guests saw Ning Cheng and Ruoxi coming to the edge of the pool, she quickly stepped forward and bowed. 2 guests, please come with me. Saying that, the female cultivator leading the way was the first to step into the pond. What made Ning Cheng shocked was that he clearly did not feel that this female cultivator was using any void treading technique. Moreover, there was also no bridge over the pond. Yet this female cultivator was able to step across the pond. Ning Cheng also followed up. He also did not cast any magical techniques. When he stepped on the void above the pool, it was as if there was a special force supporting him from falling into the pool. Furthermore, he did not sense any formation around him, nor did he sense any special undulations above the pool. May I ask why this pond is called the 1 revolution sacred Tao pond? Ning Cheng asked as he recalled his 7 bridges spirit technique. The female cultivator who led the way showed a slight smile and said with a slight bow, "This is my 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond's entry point for cultivation." After saying that, the female cultivator didn't say anything else. At this time, the 3 of them had already walked past the pool and arrived at a path paved with white jade. Ruoxi promptly sent a voice transmission to Ning Cheng. "I know a bit about the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond's cultivation method. If I didn't guess wrong, to cultivate the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond's cultivation method, you must first undergo your first reincarnation in this pond." Ning Cheng knew a bit about the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond's reincarnation. Shi Qianghua had undergone 9 reincarnations, but because of him, she had failed. Thinking of Shi Qianghua, Ning Cheng sighed and wasn't in the mood to say anything. By the time Ning Cheng and Ruoxi followed the female cultivator to the ceremonial hall, the hall was already full of cultivators. Ning Cheng's gaze swept around slightly and found many experts above the Tao sculpting realm. But he didn't know any of these experts. Ruoxi's voice came again. "Don't use your spiritual consciousness to sweep around here. There are many Tao-confirming cultivators here." "Thank you." Ning Cheng thanked her. His transaction with Ruoxi, in fact, had ended after arriving here. However, Ruoxi still reminded him, indicating that this woman still had some humanity. After the 2 sat down, more people came in one after another. Gradually, some people Ning Cheng knew also walked into the hall. Some of them were the Tao-confirming powerhouses he had seen when he entered the Grand Essence mystic realm. When a silver-haired woman walked in, Ning Cheng subconsciously lowered his head. He quickly remembered that he had changed his appearance. He knew this silver-haired woman. Manjurin had forced her to go to the mysterious Yellow Starland. In the end, he had saved her and made a deal with her. Ning Cheng didn't expect that this woman would also come to the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond to participate in the ceremony. After a while, several beautiful female cultivators walked in together. Ning Cheng actually knew most of these people. Shi Yishuang, Na Yuanxiang, Shan Yaotzen and Yan Xishuang. Behind these people, Chu Bai, Lu Yixian, Ji Pingzhong and even Peng Shan were among them. Ning Cheng didn't find it strange that other women came here. It was normal for Shui Yueka to have a few of her close friends come to cheer for her wedding. But Shan Yaotzen came over, which made Ning Cheng a little puzzled. Ning Cheng knew that Ing Yongxian, who was about to marry Shui Yueka, had chased after Shan Yaotzen. But to Ning Cheng's disappointment, he didn't see the female cultivator who looked like Shi Qianghua. One had to know that he came here mainly for that female cultivator. Everyone knew where this place was. After coming in, even those who knew each other just nodded at them. No one dared to make any noise here. Some precious god spirit fruits and fine wine were constantly being served. As these top-notch wines entered their stomachs, the sounds in the hall gradually grew louder. Just as the atmosphere gradually became lively, a beautiful woman wearing a holy crown on her head accompanied several cultivators, who also wore holy crowns as they walked in. "Greetings, Heavenly Lotus Holy Emperor. Far Sky Holy Emperor." Seeing this group of people come in, everyone stood up to greet them. Ning Cheng and Ruoxi also stood up. "I, Shi Tianhe, on behalf of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond, Thank you all for coming here and participating in the marriage ceremony between my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond and the 7-star Sacred Shrine. The beautiful woman wearing a sacred crown smiled and raised her hand. Her calm and gentle smile matched with her hand gestures was so perfect that it could not be duplicated. After the beautiful woman finished speaking, the middle-aged man beside her also smiled and made the same greeting gesture. On behalf of the 7-star Sacred Shrine, Mu Yuankong would also like to thank you all for coming here and participating in the marriage ceremony between my 7-star Sacred Shrine and the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. After the two greeted each other, they walked towards the host's seat. Ningqing saw Ing Yongxian behind Mu Yuankong, but he didn't see Shui Yueka. Ningqing listened to the discussions around him and understood that Shi Tianhe was one of the 9 Tao Pond saints of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. She was also the deputy sect master of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. Mu Yuankong was also the sect master of the 7-star Sacred Shrine. Ruoxi's voice came over again. Shi Tianhe and Mu Yuankong are both powerhouses who have just reached the second step of Tao confirming. Ningqing nodded slightly. He understood what Ruoxi meant. Although he didn't tell Ruoxi what he wanted to do, this woman was still afraid that he would act recklessly. After everyone sat down, a middle-aged female cultivator stood up. As soon as the middle-aged female cultivator stood up, before she could even speak, many cheers resounded throughout the hall. Ningqing saw that even Shi Tianhe and Mu Yuankong were showing their support with hand gestures. Ningqing felt a little puzzled. This female cultivator didn't seem to have high cultivation, so how could she have such great prestige? He was just about to ask when he heard Ruoxi's voice transmission. This woman is the 3rd president of the Grand Essence Domain's Pill Union, Holy Emperor Qingyi. She's not only a Tao transformation powerhouse, but also a Tao transformation pill deity. I just heard about it. Her strength was far stronger than Ningqing's, and her hearing naturally couldn't compare to Ningqing's. No wonder she was so respected. She turned out to be a Tao transformation pill deity. Ningqing soon felt speechless. How come everyone here today was a deputy? Wasn't the 3rd one also a deputy? Moreover, she was the deputy of a deputy. The female cultivator waited for everyone's voices to quiet down before smiling warmly. The 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond has a goddess Shui Yueka, with heaven-sent qualifications and looks. The 7-star Sacred Shrine has a sacred son in Yongxian, an outstanding talent of the Grand Essence Domain. The two of them loved each other and became Tao companions, a heavenly ceremony. Ningqing shook his head. It was obvious that the two sects wanted to form an alliance, but they had to find a marriage as an excuse. He was ready to slip away. He wanted to secretly find the woman who looked like Shi Qianghua. But just when Ningqing wanted to talk to Ruoxi, he suddenly felt dumbfounded. He didn't know when Ruoxi had disappeared, but he didn't even notice it. Ningqing's expression turned a little ugly. It seemed that this woman had played a trick on him. If one of them left, it wouldn't be very conspicuous. But if both of them left, it would definitely stand out. In other words, he could only stay here until Ruoxi returned. That woman Ruoxi came here to steal things, so would she come back? Maybe this woman would secretly plot against the Holy Emperor, who didn't drop her things, and then escape from the Sacred Tao Pond. Once this woman ran away without him, he would be finished. Sure enough, he couldn't trust others casually. It didn't matter if they were beautiful or not. Ningqing touched his storage ring with hatred. Fortunately, he still had a child talisman. If he couldn't escape, he could only activate the child talisman. As for whether the boundary-breaking talisman could break through the interface here, Ningqing had some doubts. The child talisman came from the heaven-opening talisman, so it shouldn't be a problem. At this moment, Ningqing even suspected that Ruoxi had deliberately restored the child talisman for him to feel more at ease. Holy Emperor Qingyi's voice continued. Now, the first step of the ceremony. Ing Yongxian of the 7-star Sacred Shrine, and Shui Yueka of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond, please present the ceremony to the distinguished guests. As Holy Emperor Qingyi's voice fell, Ing Yongxian, dressed in a white cultivator robe, came out. He walked to the middle of the hall and calmly bowed to the surrounding cultivators. Ing Yongxian already looked very handsome, but wearing the white cultivator robe, He looked even more handsome. This bow immediately attracted a burst of cheers and praises. Ningqing couldn't leave and could only sit in his seat. He could see that the wedding ceremony here was completely different from the one on Earth. The ceremony was just to show off one's handsomeness or beauty. Shui Yueka of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond, please present the ceremony to the distinguished guests. Holy Emperor Qingyi added. At this moment, Ningqing discovered that Ing Yongxian was the only one who came out to present the ceremony. As one of the 9 sages of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond, Shi Tianhe's expression turned ugly. If Shui Yueka didn't appear at this time, it would be akin to slapping the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond in the face. Chapter 934. 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond's Shuiyu greets seniors. A woman in a pale yellow dress walked into the hall and bowed to the guests. Sacred Emperor Qing heaved a sigh of relief. They were finally here. However, before Sacred Emperor Qing could speak, Shui Yueka spoke again. Thank you, Senior Brother Ing of the 7-Star Sacred Sect, for your love for me. However, Yueka feels that Senior Brother Ing and I are not suitable. The guests had already been invited, and the big shots of both sides had also arrived. Yet, Shui Yueka had actually said such inappropriate words. The moment Shui Yueka spoke, all the guests in the hall were stunned. Wasn't this the same as slapping the face of the 7-Star Sacred Shrine? The 7-Star Sacred Shrine was one of the 3 great sacred sects along with the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond. Now that they're here to arrange a marriage, they've already invited guests to hold a grand ceremony. And you're saying such things at a time like this? Shi Tianhe's face turned gloomy and ugly. Even the 7-Star Sacred Shrine's deputy sect master Mu Yuankong's face also turned ugly. In the middle of the hall, Ing Yongxian clenched his fists. He had never been humiliated like this before. With his talent and appearance, how could he not be worthy of a mere Shui Yueka? If you, Shui Yueka, hadn't gone to the extraterritorial Divine Spring, would I, Ing Yongxian, have made a special trip to the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond to propose? Whether it is 7-Star Sacred Shrines Yan Xishuang or River Luo Sacred Sects Shan Yaotzen, which one of them isn't more beautiful than you, Shui Yueka? Reason. Shi Tianhe spoke with an expressionless face. Even this woman surnamed Shi couldn't defy the sect's decision. Moreover, the sect had already informed Shui Yueka about this matter before she returned from the extraterritorial Divine Spring. Even if you want to object, you can't do it at this time and place. Shui Yueka bowed and said respectfully, replying to sect master Sheng, whether it is in terms of appearance or talent, this disciple is far inferior to Senior Brother Ing. If I become Dao companions with Senior Brother Ing, I'm afraid it will hinder his future. Ing Yongxian said calmly, it doesn't matter, I don't mind. Since I'm willing to become Dao companions with Junior Sister Yueka, I'll definitely help you. After he said this, he finally felt a little better. He had always been the one to reject women. When had it ever been a woman's turn to reject him? If Shui Yu hadn't rejected the marriage in front of so many people, Ing Yongxian definitely wouldn't have said such a thing. Shui Yueka had mercilessly rejected him in front of so many sect guests. Wasn't this equivalent to kicking him in the leg? How could he get out of this situation? If he still spoke humbly, others would think that he, Ing Yongxian, was a piece of trash that could be kicked by anyone. This time he came to the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond to curry favor with Shui Yueka. After he brought this woman back to the 7-Star Sacred Shrine, he would let her know that some words couldn't be said casually. Shui Yueka's respectful tone also became flat. Thank you for your generosity, Senior Martial Brother Ing. Ever since Yueka went to the extraterritorial Divine Spring, she realized that there's always someone better than you out there. Even the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children might not be able to occupy Upper Spring. For a nameless person like me, I only managed to occupy the 6th spring by relying on a fight between experts. Ing Yongxian clenched his fists so hard that his veins were bulging. How could he not understand Shui Yueka's words? In other words, he was neither one of the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children, nor had he visited the extraterritorial Spirit Spring. To put it bluntly, he was just a nameless person. She, Shui Yueka, had been to the extraterritorial Spirit Spring's 6th spring. Speaking of it, She was even better than Ing Yongxian. What qualifications does Ing Yongxian have to help her? At this point, everyone understood what was going on. Shui Yueka wasn't satisfied with Ing Yongxian, and felt that Ing Yongxian didn't live up to his name. At this point, it was no longer appropriate for Mu Yuankong or Shi Tianhe to speak. They could only leave it to Ing Yongxian and Shui Yueka to deal with it. Ing Yongxian laughed out of anger and spoke with a clear voice. I wonder which genius junior martial sister Yueka is talking about? Although I, Ing Yongxian, have never been to the extraterritorial spirit spring, nor am I one of the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children, I'm not afraid of any opponent in the same realm. Shui Yueka replied with a calm voice. So senior martial brother Ing doesn't even put Ji He, who occupies the extraterritorial first spring, in your eyes? Ing Yongxian gave a cold snort. An ant who doesn't even dare to show his true face. Does he deserve to be my opponent? I just hope that he's lucky and doesn't meet me. Ing Yongxian truly didn't need to put in any effort to kill him. This fellow was truly shameless to say such words. Brother Ing truly has a heroic spirit. This little brother can't beat that Ji He. Now that I heard Brother Ying's words, this little brother wants to see Brother Ying's skills. A sarcastic voice arrived. Ing Yongxian frowned when he saw the cultivator who spoke. It was Lu Yixian, the first ranked of the Grand Essence's 12 sacred children. He naturally understood Lu Yixian's strength, and he knew that he wasn't Lu Yixian's opponent. He had this much self-awareness. He didn't expect Lu Yixian to stand up and say such words, which made it difficult for him to step down. If Lu Yixian really came out and fought against Lu Yixian, he would lose all his face. Ningqing couldn't wait for Lu Yixian to come down and teach Ing Yongxian a lesson. Ing Yongxian definitely wasn't Lu Yixian's opponent. In fact, he wouldn't even last long. Haha, senior martial brother Lu. Why would you need to take action against such a person? This little brother can handle it. A fat cultivator flew over and landed in the middle of the hall. As soon as this fat cultivator landed in the middle of the hall, Ningqing immediately knew who he was. Peng Shan, chubby and fair-skinned. It's just that his cultivation had improved a lot compared to before. He should be a half-step Dao sculpting cultivator. He also looked a lot more mature than before, at least a bit more manly. However, Ningqing felt that Peng Shan wasn't Ing Yongxuan's opponent. Even if Peng Shan's strength had risen by a few levels, he still couldn't compare to Ing Yongxian. Peng Shan, don't make a fool of yourself. Ing Yongxian, seeing that Peng Shan dared to challenge him, felt his anger rising. It was a fact that Peng Shan had a higher status in the Flaming Feather Spirit Mountain, compared to him in the 7-star Sacred Shrine. It would be a joke to say that Peng Shan could fight against him. Peng Shan didn't care about Ing Yongxian at all. Instead, he spoke to Shui Yueka. Junior apprentice sister Yueka, if I defeat this kid, can I propose to you? Shui Yueka showed a sweet smile. It would be an honor for Yueka to be proposed to by senior apprentice brother Peng. Everyone felt a little puzzled. Shui Yueka could even refuse Ing Yongxian, but she actually agreed to Peng Shan? Even if everyone knew that Peng Shan wasn't Ing Yongxuan's opponent, they still couldn't figure it out. Ningqing also suspected that the law soil that Peng Shan gave out was for Shui Yueka. Now that things had developed to this point, if the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond didn't stop it, it would definitely offend someone. Moreover, the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond would become a laughing stock. Shi Tianhe spoke up with a cold tone. Today is the day that the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond invited Dao friends from all over the world to attend the ceremony. I don't want to see the matter of swords and blades. After saying that, she waved her hand, and 2 invisible forces rolled up Ing Yongxian and Peng Shan and landed on their seats. Then Shi Tianhe spoke up in a calmer voice, Shui Yueka, go down. Shui Yueka lowered her head, bowed and retreated. When Ningqing saw a female cultivator beside Shi Tianhe follow Shui Yueka down, he understood that Shui Yueka wasn't feeling well. The marriage ceremony had turned into such a mess. Holy Emperor Qing Yi stood up in time to change the topic. I believe that many people who came here today also know about another equally important thing. That is the Sex Internal Trade Fair. Many of the treasures here won't appear in the merchant houses or auctions. Moreover, this trade fair will start with the spirit transference trade. Since the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond is the master, we'll start with the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. The dull atmosphere once again turned lively. Many people came here to participate in the ceremony for the sake of the trade fair. Of course, even more people came here for the spirit transference trade. The 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's spirit transference trade was famous throughout the entire Grand Essence realm. Because the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond not only could complete the spirit transference trade for cultivators, but it could also add more spirit transference trade on top of the original spirit root, making one's spirit root even purer and more potential. A young woman beside Shirtianha stood up in time. My 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond has prepared 2 pure white spirit roots and 1 colorless pure spirit root. At the same time, my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond promises that as long as any spirit transference trade is successful, my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond will help with the spirit transference trade. However, we will only take 30% of the spirit transference trade. The first female cultivator with a pure white gold spirit root is willing to carry out the spirit transference trade with any cultivator. After that, the young woman raised her hand and waved a crystal screen. The image of a beautiful young woman appeared on the crystal screen. Although this female cultivator had a smile at the corner of her mouth, the sadness in her eyes couldn't be erased. The second one is a pure white water spirit root. Another crystal screen appeared, and the same image of a beautiful woman appeared on the crystal screen. The scene once again erupted with excitement. The most important parts of a cultivator's aptitude were the physical aptitudes, spiritual roots, bloodlines, dantian meridians, bones. Among them, cultivators with high spirit roots would be able to increase their comprehension to a higher level and stimulate their cultivation potential. If one could carry out a spirit transference trade on top of their own spiritual roots, most people would be more than happy to do so. Ningqing shook his head and looked at the empty seat next to him. Ruoshi hadn't returned yet, so he couldn't leave even if he wanted to. The third one is a colorless pure fire spirit root. As soon as the words colorless pure fire spirit root came out, the hall instantly went into an uproar. This was a much stronger spirit root than a pure white spirit root. With this spirit root, as long as one had enough resources, one's cultivation speed would far surpass others in the same realm. Ningqing couldn't help but take a look. But when he saw the woman on the crystal screen, his entire body stiffened, and his head buzzed. The female cultivator on the crystal screen was none other than Yanji, the one he was looking for. Yanji wore a light cyan dress, and her eyes looked a little empty. Although she was looking straight ahead, there was no light in her eyes. That unparalleled beauty, coupled with that pair of lifeless eyes, made Ningcheng's heart bleed. I want this female cultivator's spirit root. A surprised voice suddenly rang out. The young woman from the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond showed a slight smile. This female cultivator's spirit root is the best spirit root of my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. So, to get her there are 2 conditions. Chapter 935. First, my 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond needs spirit roots of pure white or above. Second, we respect the wishes of the disciple who offered her spirit root. Her spirit root can only be grafted onto female cultivators, not male cultivators. The young female cultivator from 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond spoke with a calm tone. Ningqing coldly stared at the cultivator who said that he wanted it. It was Ji Pingzhong of the Desolate Spirit Palace, back at the extraterritorial Divine Spring. If this fellow hadn't acted like a coward, he might have already killed him. Ji Pingzhong cupped his fists and did not say anything. A black-bearded man beside him chuckled. There's no problem with mutated spirit root above pure white. My desolate god palace has brought a pure white ice spirit root this time, and it's even a woman. Hearing that it was a pure white ice spirit root, even Shirtianha's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Obviously, although they needed mutated spirit roots, the ice spirit root was definitely the best. The young woman didn't say anything, but her gaze fell on Shirtianha. She was probably asking for Shirtianha's permission. Shirtian, he said slowly, this disciple is only willing to transfer his spiritual roots to female cultivators. Ji Pingzhong stood up, bowed to Shirtianha and said, naturally, I will follow this junior sister's wishes. After the spirit is married, I will bring her back to the desolate god palace and treat her well. Everyone understood what Ji Pingzhong meant, which was to first deceive the woman who was going to marry her spirit, saying that she was going to marry a woman. After she agreed, how would she know whether the person she was marrying was a man or a woman? Furthermore, the spirit grafter would not die immediately after the spirit grafting. They would at least have a few more years of lifespan. Ji Pingzhong wanted to take this woman away after the spiritual marriage, and then become his Tao companion. This way his spirit root fusion would be even more perfect. Everyone understood what Ji Pingzhong meant, and no one felt that it was wrong. After the soul bestowal, it was equivalent to dying. Naturally, no one would care about a nameless disciple who was about to die. The black-bearded man from the desolate god palace spoke again. Other than a pure ice spirit root, my desolate god palace is willing to add another 3 bottles of desolate god's marrow. Hearing about the desolate god marrow, Shi Tianhe's eyes lit up. Even she couldn't refuse this condition. The desolate divine marrow was a top-grade treasure that only existed in the desolate divine palace. The reason why the desolate divine palace had such a great reputation was largely because of the desolate divine marrow. Any cultivator could cleanse their spirit before reaching the Tao-confirming realm. Cultivators who had undergone spirit cleansing would have a purer Tao after confirming their Tao, and their potential for development would be greater. After the spirit bind, using the desolate god marrow to cleanse the spirit would increase the effect by several times. Therefore, the cultivators of the desolate god palace were stronger than others of the same level because of the desolate god marrow. There weren't many desolate divine marrow in the desolate god palace either. It was said that only 1 bottle would be produced every few years. The fact that the desolate god palace took out 3 bottles at once showed how much they cared about the colorless pure fire spirit root. Of course, this was also related to asking the 9 revolutions sacred Tao pond for a spiritual transfer. Ningcheng tightly clenched his fists, while the blue veins on his forehead twitched slightly. He should have killed Ji Pingzhong earlier. He shouldn't have waited until today. That black-bearded man was so concerned about Ji Pingzhong. It could be seen that Ji Pingzhong's position in the desolate god palace was not ordinary. Although he was angry to the extreme, Ningcheng did not dare to move. He knew that if he dared to act rashly, he would die a tragic death. The desolate god palace had taken out such a condition. Although the other sects also wanted the colorless pure fire spirit root, they knew that it was unrealistic. Therefore, they could only trade with the other 2 pure white spiritual roots. Fortunately, with the desolate god palace's help in the spiritual transfer, it wouldn't be much weaker. As the trade grew more and more intense, Ningcheng decided not to stay any longer. He knew that after the trade ended, the spiritual transfer would begin. He had to take Yanji away before the spiritual transfer began. No longer caring about being discovered by others, Ningcheng slowly walked out of the hall. This time, many guests came to the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond's grand ceremony, and some guests came out of the hall to see the scenery of the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. Therefore, it wasn't strange for them to come out. But if they came out and didn't go back for a long time, once they were discovered, they would definitely start investigating. Ningcheng's spiritual consciousness had already sensed several disciples guarding outside the 9 Revolutions Sacred Tao Pond. He could go out, but he had to do so under the watchful eyes of these disciples. He absolutely couldn't leave their line of sight. As soon as Ningcheng went out, he immediately used an invisibility technique. He understood that what he was doing was dangerous because he hadn't studied the invisibility technique. He cultivated the mysterious yellow formless, which made his invisibility technique stronger than ordinary eternal cultivators. However, it definitely couldn't hide from the spiritual consciousness of some powerhouses. Fortunately, among the disciples guarding outside, the strongest one was only a half-step Tao sculpting cultivator. Therefore, Ningcheng decided to take the risk. Without any news about Yanji, he wouldn't have dared to do this. But now that Yanji was going to be used for the spiritual transfer, even if he was discovered, he had to give it a try. As the transactions in the hall continued, not many people paid attention to Ningcheng as he walked out. The moment Ningcheng walked out of the hall, he immediately used the invisibility technique. Not far from him, he saw a half-step Dao sculpting female cultivator and an eternal cultivator talking. Ningqing felt happy. He believed that with his invisibility technique, as long as he was careful and didn't make any fluctuations, he wouldn't have any problems hiding from these two people. As for the two eternal cultivators a little further away, Ningqing didn't care about them. Just as Ningqing bypassed the two female cultivators talking, the Dao sculpting female cultivator suddenly frowned slightly. Then, her gaze and spiritual consciousness swept towards Ningqing at the same time. Did he discover me? Ningqing had just thought of this when he heard a violent explosion in the distance. A moment later, terrifying spirit essence fluctuated in the surrounding space, as if the entire space would collapse at any moment. After this explosion, another incomparably intense divine essence collision came over. The half-step Dao sculpting female cultivator no longer cared about the spatial fluctuations in front of her. Her spiritual consciousness immediately swept towards the place where the explosion occurred. Ningqing took the opportunity to wield the twin wings of the heavenly clouds and teleport away. This must be the work of that woman, Wuxia. She must have been discovered and ended up fighting with the cultivators from the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond. As soon as Ningqing left, Shi Tianhe's figure rushed out of the hall. In just a flash, she disappeared from the entrance of the hall. Because of Wuxia's actions, no one paid any attention to Ningqing for the time being. Ningqing sighed instead. His chances had become even slimmer. If the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond couldn't find Wuxia, they would definitely search for her. Wuxia was a Dao Essence Holy Emperor. It would be strange if they could find her in a short time. But Ningqing was different. He was just a puny eternal cultivator. In the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond, he was nothing more than an ant. Ningqing chose a direction in the opposite direction and carefully stealthed himself. After passing through several winding corridors, a residential complex appeared in front of Ningqing. Boom! An even more terrifying spirit essence explosion rang out behind Ningqing. The powerful spirit essence fluctuations even made Ningqing's heart palpitate. If he could curse, Ningqing would have done so a long time ago. Of all places that this woman couldn't run to, she just had to run towards him. He had clearly chosen the opposite direction of the battle just now, but he didn't expect to be affected by it. With his speed, he definitely couldn't outrun these Dao Essence powerhouses. Seeing the violent fluctuations getting closer and closer, Ningqing sped up and turned into a room in the far corner. He didn't dare to set up restrictions outside, but he could at least set up a restriction inside the room, right? These rooms most likely belonged to the 9 Revolutions Sacred Dao Pond's inner sect disciples. Since it was a residential area, it naturally had restrictions set up by the disciples themselves. Therefore, it wasn't out of place for him to set up restrictions in the room. How come it's you? Yueka stared at Ningqing and asked in surprise. Do you know me? Ningqing subconsciously touched his face. Did he change his appearance? He didn't expect his luck to be so bad. He casually entered a room and found someone inside. Moreover, it was Yueka. Yueka nodded. Of course I know you. You're a guest attending the ceremony. With a full beard, it's not hard to recognize you. I saw you as soon as I went in. As Yueka spoke, she took out a jade card. As long as she crushed the jade card, Ningqing wouldn't be able to escape no matter what he changed into. Wait, Peng Shan and I are friends. Ningqing quickly called out when he saw Yueka about to crush the jade card. In case Yueka really called someone over, he would definitely die. Peng Shan? You and Peng Shan are friends. What does that have to do with me? Although Yueka said that, she didn't continue to crush the jade card. Ningqing spoke up with a thick face. I know that you and Peng Shan have some secrets. I also contributed to Peng Shan's lost oil. Lost oil? What secrets do I have with Peng Shan? Yueka looked at Ningqing in doubt. Apparently she didn't know about this. Ningqing cursed Peng Shan in his heart. This fellow looked pure and innocent, but he turned out to be someone who liked the new and hated the old. He clearly used the lost oil to please a woman, and now he wanted to please Yueka. If you looked as handsome as Ing Yongxian, it would have been fine. But the key was that you were little Bajie. However, when Ningqing thought about how Bajie was the dream lover of many beauties back on Earth, He didn't feel that it was too strange. Whether the person making the noise outside is on your side or not, if you go out now, I will pretend that I didn't see anything. Otherwise, I will call for help. Shui Yueka's face turned cold, and her tone didn't show any trace of politeness. Ningqing thought that if she called him out now, wouldn't it be the same as courting death? So he quickly spoke up again. Even if you don't give face to Peng Shan, you should at least give me some face for helping you obtain the 6th stone door of the extraterritorial spirit spring. The 6th stone door? Shui Yueka's eyes suddenly tightened, and she stared at Ningqing. Who the hell are you? Ningqing took out a long spear and casually stabbed out a few spear patterns before saying, I once disguised myself as Ji He. Do you think that I also contributed to your 6th stone door? Shui Yueka, on seeing Ningqing bring out a long spear, raised her hand, and a faint glow appeared in her hand. Then, when she heard Ningqing say that he was Ji He, she loosened her hand, and the faint glow disappeared. Instead, she looked at Ningqing in shock. You said that you are Ji He, the 1st stone door to enter the extraterritorial spirit spring? Without waiting for Ningqing to answer, she replied, Yes, you're right. You are indeed Ji He. Sharp screams and violent spatial fluctuations came from not far away, causing Ningqing to feel even more anxious. Shui Yueka wasn't in a hurry, but he was. Chapter 936. Come in. Shui Yueka also felt the incoming fluctuations. Ningqing rushed into Shui Yueka's room without hesitation. Shui Yueka saw Ningqing rushing in, and immediately raised her hand to activate the restrictions. However, Ningqing was faster than her. He had already set up several restrictions in front of her, concealing his entire person and aura. Ningqing had just hidden himself when several tyrannical spiritual consciousnesses rushed into Shui Yueka's room. Shui Yueka quickly bowed to the side. But before she could speak, a slightly aged voice rang out in her room. Someone has invaded the sect. Go out and join the search immediately. As the last word fell, the voice disappeared. A moment later, a fight broke out further away. Ningqing breathed a sigh of relief and walked out of the room. He then cupped his fist towards Shui Yueka and thanked her. Many thanks, Senior Apprentice Sister Shui. If I were outside just now, I would have definitely been detected by someone's spiritual consciousness. Ji He, who the hell are you? Shui Yueka stared at Ningqing and asked in a deep voice. My real name is Ningqing. Because I killed Manjuran, Man Huishan chased after me. I had to pretend to be Ji He. Ningqing didn't hide anything. Since Ningqing had disguised himself as Ji He, and Man Huishan already knew about it, he didn't need to hide anything. Shui Yueka looked at Ningqing in shock, but she couldn't help but admire him in her heart. This fellow's strength was among the best in the same realm, but he also had some guts. He dared to kill Manjuran, and ended up being chased by Man Huishan. Who knew what bold thing he did to come to the 9 Revolutions sacred Daopan this time? Is the person being chased outside your companion? Shui Yueka asked again. Ningqing shook his head. I came together with her, but we're not companions. She has her own things to do, and I have my own things to do. Thinking of his own things, Ningqing quickly asked, Senior Apprentice Sister Shui, is there a woman named Shi Qianghua in your sect? Shui Yueka shook her head. I've never heard of this name. Are you looking for her? Ningqing quickly replied. No, I also want to ask Senior Apprentice Sister Shui for help. I will never forget your great kindness. Shui Yueka nodded. Just say it. As long as I can help. It's just that it's very difficult for you to even leave the 9 Revolutions sacred Daopan now. What else do you need my help for? I have a very good friend called Yanji. Ningqing understood that Shuiyu was his only way out, otherwise he would not even know where Yanji was. Yanji? Shui Yueka asked in surprise. Is she the outer sect disciple with the colorless pure fire spiritual root? You know Yanji, that's great. I don't know what disciple she is, but she is a very good friend of mine. I want you to tell me where is she. Yanji's spiritual root is about to be married off. Even if I tell you where she is, you won't be able to take her away. Shui Yueka felt a little puzzled. Yanji's cultivation wasn't high, and she had seen Yanji before. She should have just stepped into the life and death realm. How did Ningqing know Yanji? Ningqing bowed to Shui Yueka, then took out a bottle of Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills, placed it in front of Shui Yueka and said, "Senior apprentice Sister Shui, this is a bottle of Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills. It can expand one's sea of consciousness, strengthen one's spiritual consciousness, and even repair injuries to one's sea of consciousness." Is this the medicinal pill you traded with the star-stepping tower master at the Heaven Essence Public Square? Shui Yueka didn't wait for Ningqing to finish and immediately understood. She naturally knew how precious this medicinal pill was. If it weren't precious, why would someone like the star-stepping tower master care about Ningqing's medicinal pill? Yes, if senior apprentice Sister Shui needs it, I can help you refine it. But I only have this bottle with me now, Ningqing replied sincerely. Shui Yueka sucked in a breath of cold air. She had never seen such a medicinal pill before. But as an inner sect cultivator of the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao Pond, and a disciple who had visited the extraterritorial spirit spring, she already knew about the most popular medicinal pill in the Grand Essence realm. It was this Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill. Even the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao Pond didn't have a single one. Shui Yueka pushed the jade bottle back to Ningqing. This medicinal pill is too precious. I don't dare to accept it. A high-rank Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill was auctioned in the Heaven Essence Sacred City. Do you know how much it sold for? 26 million spirit crystals. The Grand God Pill sect bought this medicinal pill. Although the Grand God Pill sect bought this medicinal pill for analysis, it also shows how precious this medicinal pill is. Ningqing took in a breath of cold air. He guessed that Xi and Xiao must have leaked this medicinal pill. A high-rank Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill sold for 26 million spirit crystals? He thought back to the Dark Void milk transaction with the Broken Rain Demon Saint. That fellow had taken out 6 Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills and added 2 million spirit crystals. Compared to that, he felt like an idiot. That Broken Rain Demon Saint definitely knew about the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill. The only reason this fellow pretended not to know about it was to make him suffer a loss. These old bastards were all fox shit, smart and smelly. Ningqing thought that he had seen through Broken Rain Demon Saint's tricks, but he didn't expect to fall for it. He felt sure that Broken Rain Demon Saint wouldn't let him go so easily. As long as he went out with his original appearance, this bastard would definitely keep an eye on him. Ningqing pretended not to know about the consciousness transmutation pill because he feared Ruoxi, a Tao Essence powerhouse. Although the Grand God Pill sect bought his medicinal pill for research purposes, it still raised the price. From this, one could see that his Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill was worth more than 1 million spirit crystals. By the way, did you just say that you refined the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill? Are you a pill deity? Shui Yueka saw Ningqing's silence and suddenly recalled Ningqing's last sentence. Ningqing nodded. Yes, I'm indeed a pill deity. But I can only refine Tao sculpting spirit pills. Senior apprentice sister, please accept this bottle of medicinal pill. I can really refine it. Although he hadn't refined a Tao nurturing spirit pill yet, Ningqing still benefited a lot from Pill Sage Minkong's jade strip. Moreover, he also knew that a true Tao sculpting pill deity could only manifest itself after reaching Tao confirming. Otherwise, the refined spirit pills would have no spirit. The reason why he could refine the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill was that the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill had nothing to do with Tao. It was a spirit pill related to one sea of consciousness, and he happened to have a powerful sea of consciousness. Of course, he could also refine some ordinary Tao sculpting spirit pills, but the pill charm wouldn't be too deep. After reading Pill Sage Minkong's jade strip, he understood that a true pill deity or even a pill sage had to integrate Tao charm into the process of refining pills. Only by integrating Tao charm into the Tao of alchemy could one refine true spirit pills. Although he called himself a pill deity, the number of spirit pills he could refine was limited. Many thanks, Senior Apprentice Brother Ning. My cultivation is lower than Senior Apprentice Brother Ning, and my status is far from that of a pill deity. Senior Apprentice Brother Ning can just call me Yueka from now on. Shui Yueka put away the medicinal pill. Without waiting for Ningcheng to ask again, Shui Yueka took out a thin thread and tied it around Ningcheng's wrist before tying the other end to her wrist. Senior apprentice brother Ning, come with me. I'll take you there. You'll take me there? Ningcheng looked at Shui Yueka in surprise. Shui Yueka nodded. Yes, I originally planned to take you there. I tied the heaven-concealing silk to you. A treasure left behind by my father. After my sister died, this treasure has always been with me. Ningcheng nodded and didn't ask how Shui Yueka's sister died. It wasn't appropriate for him to ask about such things. While all the people outside were attracted to Ruoxi, Ningcheng and Shui Yueka easily crossed several restrictions and entered the 9 revolving sacred Dao pond. After an incense stick worth of time, Shui Yueka brought Ningcheng to a snow-white house. There were only a few restrictions in front of the house, but no one was guarding it. Outside the house, there was also a pond full of lotus flowers. It didn't look anything special. Shui Yueka whispered to Ningcheng, Junior apprentice sister Yanji should be in this house. There's a spiritual cleansing array formation here that can purify one's spiritual root. It's to maintain the purest state of one's spiritual root before the spirit wedding. Do you see this pond? This pond has a lot of impurities. The lotus flowers here are all spirit-devouring lotuses. As long as a cultivator enters this pond, their sea of consciousness would slowly be swallowed up. Ningcheng subconsciously looked at the pond and looked at the large lotus leaves covering the water surface. He couldn't help but feel amazed. If he stayed in this pond for a while, he didn't know if his starry sky sea of consciousness would dry up. Even with his powerful spiritual consciousness, he couldn't penetrate this pond. From this, it showed how terrifying it was. Let's go in. Be careful, the restrictions here are very powerful. Shui Yueka had just spoken half a sentence when her body stiffened. Ningcheng shared the connecting spirit silk with her, so he naturally knew what was going on. Several figures came from a distance, heading towards the White House. Ningcheng was sure that even with the heaven-concealing silk, he and Shui Yueka would have nowhere to hide. Ningcheng had experienced too many things. Compared to Shui Yueka, he dealt with things more decisively. At this moment he didn't wait for Shui Yueka to react at all. With a wave of his hand, he brought Shui Yueka into the pond full of spirit-devouring lotuses. A bone-chilling cold washed over them, followed by bursts of stabbing pain in their sea of consciousness. It felt as if an invisible force was devouring their sea of consciousness. Even if he knew that this pond would devour the sea of consciousness, Ningcheng still felt shocked. Even with his starry sky sea of consciousness, he couldn't hold on, let alone Shui Yueka. Although Shui Yueka didn't show anything, at this moment, her body started to tremble. Apparently, her sea of consciousness had started to devour. Junior apprentice sister Shui, quickly take out an Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill and swallow it. Ningcheng quickly sent a sound transmission to Shui Yueka. Shui Yueka's sea of consciousness was completely resisting the spirit-devouring lotus's devouring power. So when she heard Ningcheng's voice transmission, she immediately took out an Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill and put it in her mouth. At the same time, she also took out another pill and put it in Ningcheng's mouth. She felt shocked in her heart. Ningcheng could even send a sound transmission in this place. His cultivation truly surpassed hers. A warm aura permeated Shui Yueka's sea of consciousness, and Shui Yueka was pleasantly surprised to find that her sea of consciousness had stopped devouring. Not only that, under the situation where she had not circulated her cultivation method, her sea of consciousness was still slowly expanding, and her divine sense was still stretching. Shui Yueka almost couldn't restrain her emotions. Hiding in the pond full of spirit-devouring lotuses, not only did her sea of consciousness not get devoured, but it even continued to grow. If someone else had said this, she would have thought that they were stupid. But this was the truth. The Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill was simply too powerful. Chapter 937. Ningcheng also felt shocked. The Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill could expand one's sea of consciousness and strengthen one's spiritual consciousness. He already knew about it because he had always used this pill to cultivate his sea of consciousness. What he didn't expect was that cultivating with the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill in this pond that devoured spiritual consciousness would have twice the effect compared to cultivating in other places. The bottom of this pond was naturally suitable for tempering one's spiritual consciousness and expanding one's sea of consciousness. Ningcheng tried to stretch out his spiritual consciousness. He couldn't extend his spiritual consciousness into the pond just now, but he could now easily see the situation outside. Ningcheng and Shui Yueka had just hidden themselves and swallowed the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill when three figures landed in front of the White House. Ningcheng felt sure that at least one of the three was a Tao birth realm expert. Even if his spirit essence transformation was perfect, he wouldn't dare to fight against a Tao birth realm expert. They weren't on the same level. Maybe if he reached Tao sculpting, he could fight against a Tao transformation expert. However, he definitely wouldn't be a match for a Tao birth realm expert in the eternal realm. It was a qualitative and quantitative change. Moreover, his strength after reaching Tao sculpting was completely different from before. Shui Yueka's voice came over. Senior apprentice brother Ning, they should be lying in ambush here, not to take away junior apprentice sister Yanji. Elder Nanrong already has a Tao birth realm cultivation, so you must be careful. Why are you helping me? Ningcheng asked in confusion. Shui Yueka replied calmly. Even if you didn't come to me, I might have sneaked away alone. Do you know how my sister died? Without waiting for Ningcheng to ask, Shui Yueka said with hatred. My sister's name is Shui Yuexin. She's really cute. In fact, Peng Shan's favorite person was my sister, Shui Yuexin. I didn't know about it until after my sister died. I only knew that Peng Shan gave her something precious to please Yuexin. I didn't know that it was law soil until today. At this point, Shui Yueka remained silent for a long time before continuing. My sister didn't ask Peng Shan for law soil for her own use, but for her master. Do you know who her master is? It's Shi Tianhe. Shi Tianhe? Isn't that one of the Tao Pond 9 sages of the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond? Your sister actually worshipped her as a master? Ningcheng asked in amazement. In his heart, he found it even more strange that Shui Yueka directly called out Shi Tianhe's name. Shui Yueka snorted. Do you think she treats every disciple sincerely? In the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond, only those with the surname Shi, Shu, and Na were the true controllers and could cultivate the true 9 revolutions sacred Tao. The rest of the disciples, no matter how talented they are, they can only cultivate the sage Tao. Only sage masters of the Tao. I said the other disciples. Very few people know about this kind of secret matter. But he still couldn't believe that a famous sacred sect like the 9 revolutions sacred Tao Pond would do such a shameless thing in secret. Sage sect ability. Pure spirit of the of S sisters Qi. Tian sect with Mayavov of sect. Sure. This should have been the happiest thing for us 2 sisters, but before my little sister died, she communicated with me spiritually, and I found out what was going on. Shui Yueka's voice sounded sad. My sister and I are twins. Sometimes, we can communicate with each other. Although she didn't tell me about her relationship with Peng Shan, I could guess a thing or two. But I didn't ask about it. After I came out of the extraterritorial spirit spring, Shi Tianhe told me that she wanted me to marry 7-star sacred sects in Yongxian. Although I didn't like in Yongxian, I agreed. But after I went into seclusion for a few months, I sensed my sister's soul communication. My sister told me that she had fallen and was forced to marry a female cultivator named Shi Yueyin. She was locked up in a white room for spiritual cleansing. If she didn't want to, the sect would have destroyed me. Shui Yueka's voice grew more and more indignant. Just when I was eager to find my sister, Shi Tianhe told me with fake pain that Yuexin was in a hurry to sculpt her Tao. Her sea of consciousness cracked and her spiritual soul shattered. I saw my sister's body, and it looked exactly as Shi Tianhe had described. I cried in grief and no longer had the mind to cultivate. If it weren't for my sister's soul communication, I would have believed that bitch's words. I could only bury my hatred in the bottom of my heart, and didn't dare to reveal anything. After that, I kept looking for the white room. Finally, one day, I found it. I wanted to find some evidence to publicize the shamelessness of the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond. But I didn't expect the marriage to come so quickly. Ningqing finally understood why Shui Yueka came out to reject the marriage. The reason why Shui Yueka chose Peng Shan was that Peng Shan was someone Shui Yuexin liked. Moreover, Peng Shan's identity could keep her safe. Ningqing sighed and said, I didn't expect the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond to be so dirty. I think even if you spread those things out, no one would believe you. You would only die faster. I'm sure that even if Peng Shan was willing to help you, the Flaming Feather Spirit Mountain wouldn't help you. Shui Yueka restrained her grief and indignation. I also understood that after I rejected Ing Yongxian, I was already a dead person. I wouldn't be able to escape. The biggest possibility is that I would follow in Yuexin's footsteps and end up in the hands of the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond. After saying that, Shui Yueka fell silent. She knew that even if she hid with Ningqing under this pond, it would be hard to say whether she would live or die. Ningqing didn't speak again. He naturally understood Shui Yueka's thoughts. If the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond's array formation sealed it, he wouldn't be able to leave without the opening Heaven Child talisman. After a few breaths, Ningqing suddenly said, Junior Apprentice Sister Yueka, I want to enter my true spirit world to do something. Wait for me. After saying that, Ningqing didn't wait for Shui Yueka's consent and directly entered the true spirit world. He wanted to refine a furnace of medicinal pills. Since the situation was so difficult, he had to make some preparations. What Ningqing wanted to refine was the Spirit Explosion Pill, which was a pill with a very terrifying explosive power. However, it was also a pill with very terrifying consequences. The Spirit Explosion Pill belonged to the Tao Sculpting Spirit Pill category, which allowed a cultivator's strength to erupt with 10 times, or even dozens of times its original strength. But after the eruption, once the cultivator couldn't resist it, it was likely that the cultivator's meridians, sea of consciousness, and even essence spirit would crack apart. It wasn't impossible for the cultivator to become a cripple, or even fall. Ningqing wanted to refine the Spirit Explosion Pill just in case. The 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond was a terrifying sect. Once he got caught, wouldn't the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond use Yanji to threaten him? Wouldn't all his spiritual roots be married off? Even if he died, he didn't want his spiritual roots to be married off. After an incense stick worth of time, Ningqing came out of the true spirit world again. Seeing Ningqing come out, Shui Yueka felt slightly relieved. Ningqing coming out obviously wouldn't change anything. But with the two of them together, she felt a little bolder. I don't think they'll leave for the time being. Are we going to hide here? After Ningqing came out again, Shui Yueka asked with a sound transmission. Ningqing was just about to answer when he suddenly trembled. Feeling the changes in Ningqing, Shui Yueka quickly swept out with her spiritual consciousness. Her spiritual consciousness then found Ji Pingzhong walking over. After seeing Ji Pingzhong, Shui Yueka immediately understood why Ningqing trembled. It was obvious that Ji Pingzhong wanted to marry off his spiritual roots. Because of this, Ji Pingzhong came over. No one could understand why the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond wanted to marry off their spiritual roots at this time, especially when there were foreign enemies invading. The restrictions around the White House opened, and Ji Pingzhong followed the black-bearded man from the desolate spirit palace, and the 3 female cultivators from the sacred Tao pond towards the house. Ningqing couldn't bear it anymore. He stuffed a talisman into Shui Yueka's hand and suddenly rushed out. Even if he had to face an even more powerful opponent, he would not stand idly by and watch as Yanji's spiritual soul was transferred in front of his eyes. Shui Yueka saw a powerful teleportation talisman in her hand, and immediately understood what was going on. Ningqing wanted to tell her that if he couldn't make it, she could use this talisman to take him and Yanji away. Shui Yueka didn't look at the talisman in her hand carefully. She just sighed and rushed out. As soon as Ningqing rushed out, the 5 people walking to the door of the White House saw him. Ji Pingzhong and the black-bearded man only looked surprised. The 3 female cultivators from the 9 Revolutions sacred Tao pond weren't just surprised, but horrified. They saw two people hiding in a pond with spirit-devouring lotuses, and rushing out with such vigor. The black-bearded man didn't make a move. He could see that Ning Cheng's cultivation wasn't worth mentioning, and he also had to protect Ji Pingzhong. The Dao Birth Realm female cultivator from the 9 revolutions, Sacred Dao Pond, quickly calmed down. With a cold snort, she raised her hand and brought out a few sword lights. Ning Cheng's heart felt like it was on fire, but his mind became calmer and calmer. He swallowed an explosive spirit pill, and at the same time, his essence, blood, and lifespan started burning. A terrifying and violent aura erupted from Ning Cheng's body. This kind of power quickly rushed out of the eternal realm and approached the aura of a Dao sculpting cultivator. However, the aura didn't stop and continued to rise crazily. It felt as if Ning Cheng's entire body would shatter under this soaring aura in the next moment. Law-breaking. Ning Cheng didn't even look at the weapon light that the Dao Birth Realm female cultivator from the 9 revolutions Sacred Dao Pond shot at him. Instead, he waved his hand and gave a cold shout. Invisible but perceptible ripples spread in the surrounding space. The Dao Birth Realm female cultivator felt her spirit power weaken. It seemed as if a power that was contrary to heaven and earth had appeared out of nowhere, completely suppressing her spirit power. Even the black-bearded cultivator felt everything around him in shock, and subconsciously brought out his weapon. He felt the laws around him weaken without limit, and his strength also decreased amidst the weakening laws. First bridge of coping. Ning Cheng took a step forward again. After using the law-breaking technique, he swung out a pale stone arch bridge. As he spat out these words, a trace of blood overflowed from the corner of Ning Cheng's mouth. Even though he had used the explosive spirit pill and burned his essence, blood, and lifespan, he had to face a Dao transformation expert and a Dao birth expert. After using the law-breaking technique, he immediately used the first bridge of coping, which also consumed a lot of energy. Chapter 938. Surging blood surged under the pale stone arch bridge, like a blood river without a dam. No, it wasn't like. Rather, it directly formed a surging blood river under the pale stone arch bridge. 5 large words appeared on the bridge of coping. First bridge of coping. No return in life, no retreat in death. Once you enter, you will never return. No home, no reincarnation. Only the blood river to wash away your sins. Bursts of calls with soul-penetrating power took the 5 people to the bridge of coping. Ning Cheng had already cast the law-breaking technique. Apart from the Dao Birth cultivator from the 9 revolutions Sacred Dao Pond, and the black-bearded man from the desolate God Palace, the other 2 women and 1 man had already rushed onto the bridge of coping with a determined look in their eyes. The billowing nether wind grew stronger and stronger. Under the law-breaking technique, the Dao Birth cultivator from the 9 revolutions, Sacred Dao Pond, finally couldn't hold on, and stepped onto the first bridge of coping. Perhaps seeing the Dao Birth female cultivator from the 9 revolutions, Sacred Dao Pond, walk onto the first bridge of coping, the black-bearded man from the desolate God Palace also walked onto the bridge of coping. Unlike the previous 3, after these 2 walked onto the bridge of coping, although their footsteps were a little sluggish, they didn't stop. They were about to cross the bridge of coping. Ning Cheng's face turned pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Even after swallowing the explosive spirit pill, burning his essence, blood, and lifespan, and even casting the law-breaking technique in advance, he still couldn't use the first bridge of coping to kill a Dao birth expert and a Dao transformation expert. His foundation was still too weak. Ning Cheng had the 7 Bridges Realm book, and was in the process of fusing the first few bridges of the 7 Bridges Spirit technique. Of course, he knew that the first bridge of coping of the 7 Bridges Spirit technique wasn't just about jumping into the blood river. After casting the real first bridge of coping, he could control the cultivator trapped on the bridge of coping to jump into the blood river. He could even make them his slaves. As long as one set foot on the first bridge of coping, they would be trapped in the first bridge spirit technique forever, and their life and death would be under his control. But not now. Ning Cheng's control over the first bridge of coping was still too low. Once the opponent walked out of the first bridge of coping, they would directly break through his first bridge spirit technique. Ning Cheng forcibly endured his collapsing body, and condensed his aura before taking another step. Second bridge of Viewing Village. The black-bearded man and the 9 revolutions sacred Dao Pon's Dao birth female cultivator had just walked out of the first bridge of coping. Before the two of them could fully sober up, the scene in front of them changed again. The surging blood river and the boundless sinister winds disappeared without a trace. An earthen yellow arch bridge appeared in front of the two of them. Boundless Taoist rhymes pressed down on them, and a look of confusion appeared on their faces. In the next moment, time flowed back, and the two of them returned to the scene when they were seeking the Tao. Lover, nostalgia, reluctance, beauty, hardship, and that trace of pure land in the heart. When the two of them landed at the bottom of the bridge, they had an irresistible urge to turn around and take a look. An indistinct cry rang out from the depths of the bridge. Do not look back when you step on this bridge, for there is no one waiting for you at the end of the village. Don't look at each other, don't be hesitant. The moment you step on this bridge, your heart is broken. Already broken, already broken, already broken. 5 blurred characters appeared on the stone tablet in front of the bridge. Second Village Gazing Bridge. The Second Village Gazing Bridge wasn't as solid as the first bridge of coping. It was blurry, as if it could dissipate at any time. Ningqing trembled, and he suddenly shouted, "Why aren't you taking Yanji away?" Even if Ningqing didn't target her, Shui Yueka, who had fallen into the first bridge of coping, trembled and finally sobered up. She looked at Ningqing in horror. What kind of eternal cultivator was this? He could even trap a Dao Nourishment Holy Emperor and a Dao Transformation Holy Emperor. Once Ningqing grew up, who could be his opponent? But then she saw Ningqing trembling all over, his pale face, and the corner of his mouth that kept overflowing with blood. Her heart trembled slightly. She knew that Ningqing had no future. At this time, Shui Yueka no longer had time to think about it and rushed into the White House. No. A tearing sound rang out, and the black-bearded man from the desolate god palace spat out a mouthful of blood and screamed miserably. The Second Village Viewing Bridge, which was already weak and blurry in the first place, suddenly crumbled. Ningqing also spat out another mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. At this time, Shui Yueka had just rushed out of the White House with Yanji in her arms when she saw Ningqing lying on the ground. The black-bearded man and Holy Emperor Nanrong from the 9 revolutions sacred Dao Pon still seemed a little confused. But Shui Yueka knew that this confusion would only last for a moment. After a while, when the two woke up, she and Ningqing would die without a burial place. Shui Yueka didn't have time to think about it. She rushed up, stretched out her other arm and grabbed Ningqing. She was about to use the talisman Ningqing had given her. The black-bearded man suddenly opened his eyes. When he saw that Ji Pingzhong had disappeared, he instantly understood what was going on. He roared, "Bastard, how dare you kill Pingzhong? I'm going to burn your soul bit by bit." A powerful suppressive force swept over, and Shui Yueka's body tightened. She could no longer move. Shui Yueka's eyes showed a trace of despair. Only now did she deeply understand the power of a Dao transformation cultivator. With her strength, she couldn't even compare to an ant in front of a Dao transformation expert. She really couldn't figure out how Ningqing had subdued 2 holy emperors before. That's right, it's the 7 Bridges Spirit Technique. It's definitely the 7 Bridges Spirit Technique. Shui Yueka instantly figured out the spirit technique Ningqing used, but she still couldn't move. 9 revolutions sacred Dao Pon's Dao Nourishment Holy Emperor Nanrong also woke up at the same time. She didn't care about the disappearance of her 2 companions. Instead she murmured, "It's the Supreme Spirit Technique, the 7 Bridges. It's the 7 Bridges." Ningqing's 7 Bridges hadn't even taken form, and it didn't even have a billionth of its power. Yet an eternal cultivator had almost killed a Dao Nourishment Holy Emperor and a Dao Transformation Holy Emperor. Could this be described as heaven-defying? Immediately, Nanrong became excited. This was the 7 Bridges Spirit Technique, the 7 Bridges Spirit Technique. If the 7 Bridges Spirit Technique fell into the 9 revolutions sacred Dao Pond, what would happen to the 9 revolutions sacred Dao Pond? What would happen to her? The 9 revolutions sacred Dao Pond cultivated the 9 revolutions sacred Dao, and had the 9 paths reincarnation pond. The 7 Bridges Spirit Technique was a top-grade spirit technique tailor-made for the 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond. Thinking of this, Nan Rong glanced at the furious black-bearded man. She couldn't let this person leave the 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond. The fierce and oppressive killing intent completely enveloped Shui Yueka. Shui Yueka opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. She couldn't resist at all. At this moment, a rain of blood fell. The black-bearded man and Nan Rong Holy Emperor looked up subconsciously and saw a woman covered in blood falling from the sky. The rain of blood fell from her body, but before she landed on the ground, she snorted coldly and raised her hand to summon 9 lotus shadows. These 9 lotus shadows were like a huge palm that enveloped the black-bearded man and Nan Rong. The black-bearded man and Tao Nourishment Holy Emperor Nan Rong were so powerful that Ningqing couldn't restrain them even with his full strength. Under these 9 lotus shadows, they couldn't resist at all, just like Shui Yueka. Poof! A blood mist exploded. The black-bearded man went from sober to angry to attacking. In just a few breaths, he turned into a blood mist and disappeared. 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond's Tao Nourishment Holy Emperor Nan Rong also died under the bombardment of the 9 lotus shadows. She couldn't resist at all. The woman who landed picked up Shui Yueka, Ningcheng and Yanji. She then raised her hand and threw out a bead. With a burst of sound, the bead disappeared without a trace. The moment the 4 disappeared, Shi Tianhe and the others landed in front of the White House. An old woman stared at the broken defensive array and took in a deep breath. I was wondering why this demonic woman kept circling around my 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond and didn't want to go out. It turns out that she wanted to take away the male cultivator who came with her. That guy should be called Qing Yanqiong, right? Shi Tianhe and the others were furious. This woman's 9-petal lotus throne couldn't even be described as powerful. Even if the 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond had a primordial essence Holy Emperor, it still couldn't restrain her. It could only seriously injure her. Just as she said, if it weren't for taking away these people, this demonic woman would have already left. It wasn't a good thing for the 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond to offend such an expert. Ruoxi also felt very unhappy. If it weren't for Ningcheng, how could she have suffered such serious injuries? She would have already left. The reason why she was unhappy was that every time she sensed Ningcheng's position, Ningcheng would suddenly disappear. With several experts chasing after her, it was naturally impossible for her to stay and search carefully. As she fought and fled, she finally sensed Ningcheng's appearance again when her body was riddled with scars. This time, she rushed over as fast as she could and finally took Ningcheng and the others away before Shui Yueka and Ningcheng fell. If she knew that Ningcheng had deliberately left in the opposite direction from her, she might have been too angry to care about Ningcheng. Shui Yueka didn't move. The moment Ruoxi took her away, she saw the black-bearded man and Tao Nourishment Holy Emperor Nan Rong fall. To be able to kill a Tao Nourishment and a Tao Transformation expert with a wave of her hand, this woman who took them away was definitely a powerhouse among powerhouses. In any case, there was no worse result than staying in the 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond. She also didn't need to resist. Ningcheng's aura was weak, and his meridians were cracked. He couldn't even take out a medicinal pill to put into his mouth. Shui Yueka sighed, and was about to take out a medicinal pill to put into Ningcheng's mouth, when she suddenly felt her body stop. She then landed on the ground. What the hell happened to him? How did he get so badly injured? Ruoxi frowned and asked while looking at Shui Yueka. Shui Yueka didn't even need to sweep out with her spiritual consciousness to know that she was no longer in the 9 Revolution Sacred Tao Pond. She bowed and said, replying to Senior, he used an explosive spirit pill to save Yanji. He even burned his essence blood and lifespan. Ruoxi looked at Ningcheng speechlessly. An eternal cultivator actually wanted to deal with a Tao Nourishment Holy Emperor and a Tao Transformation Holy Emperor. Was it because he was ignorant and fearless? Or was it because the woman he wanted to save was too important to him? Tao confirming or not Tao confirming, could a mere explosive spirit pill make up for it? Let's go. Let's find a place to heal. I also suffered some serious injuries this time. After Ruoxi finished, she brought out an airship-type artifact and brought Ningcheng and Yanji aboard. Shui Yueka saw that this powerhouse seemed to know Ningcheng and didn't have any malicious intent. She felt slightly relieved and landed on the airship-type artifact. Chapter 939. Ruoxi quickly sorted out her emotions before coming out and saying, Ningcheng burned his essence, blood, and longevity, and even used the spirit explosion pill to rupture his meridians. I don't dare to say that his life is in danger, but even if he doesn't die, his cultivation will stop here. If you want to improve further, then, Senior, please save him once. Shui Yueka quickly bowed and asked Shui Yueka to save Ningcheng's life. Shui Yu knew that if it weren't for Ningcheng, she wouldn't have had the chance to walk out of the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Pond. What's more, the bottle of pills that Ningcheng had given her was a priceless treasure for her. Ruoxi shook her head. The reason why I tried so hard to bring him out was because I entered the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Pond and recovered a talisman. It was all thanks to his help. Now I help him and pay him back what I owe him. I can wake him up, but I don't think I can. His sea of consciousness was very strange. Logically speaking, under the effects of the explosive divine pill and the burning of his essence, blood, and lifespan, the first thing to explode was his sea of consciousness. In fact, not only did his sea of consciousness not explode, there seemed to be a faint flow of energy. If I forcefully wake him up, it might not be a good thing for him. I have a feeling that if he has the slightest chance of recovering, it's this little flow of energy in his sea of consciousness. Ruoxi didn't say anything. She could feel the origin aura flowing within Ningcheng's sea of consciousness. However, Ningcheng's sea of consciousness felt very strange. Not only was it tough and powerful, but it also made people unable to detect it. If she wanted to forcibly probe Ningcheng's sea of consciousness, then Ningcheng would most likely be completely crippled. Therefore, she did not check it, nor did she mention anything about the origin. Senior, how long will it take for senior apprentice brother Ningcheng to wake up? Shui Yueka quickly asked. Ruoxi remained silent for a while before replying. Maybe one day, maybe 100 years, maybe never to wake up. Shui Yueka screamed in fear. Ruoxi continued. Ningcheng should be a Dao sculpting pill emperor. Just now, I checked his ring, and the ring only contains some mediocre medicinal pills and low-level spiritual grasses, which didn't help his injuries at all. I suggest that you don't touch him when you take him with you in the future. Don't think of a way to ask for pills for him, just let nature take its course. Senior, you're leaving? Ruoxi asked in surprise. Now that this powerful senior had left, what would she do with Ningcheng and Yanji? Then she recalled that Ningcheng had mentioned that he would go to the true spirit world to perform alchemy. That is to say, Ningcheng at least had a true spirit world. If Ningcheng wanted to refine a spirit pill in such a situation, then it would definitely be an explosive spirit pill without a doubt. Since Ningcheng could refine explosive spirit pills, it meant that Ningcheng had some high-level divine grasses on him. This senior in front of him said that Ningcheng's ring did not contain anything good, which meant that Ningcheng's true spirit world was hidden in another place, most likely in the depths of his sea of consciousness. But how could the true spirit world be hidden in the depths of the sea of knowledge? Ruoxi replied with a calm voice. How can I give up before I get my things back? Therefore, I must leave. And even if I get my things back, I will still leave. I want to go back to where I belong. Senior, can you help save junior apprentice sister Yanji? Shui Yueka didn't care about seniority anymore. If she didn't beg this senior now, it would be useless for her to regret it after this senior left. According to the words of this senior, she owed Ningcheng. Even if her words offended this senior, she probably wouldn't have any murderous intent towards her. Ruoxi looked at Yanji and frowned slightly. This woman's foundation is completely destroyed. She won't live for long. Shui Yueka's heart sank. She knew that Yanji's foundation should have been destroyed. But now that a senior mentioned it in front of her, she still felt a little uncomfortable for Yanji. In the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Pond, Shui Yueka's status was much higher than Yanji's. Yanji didn't even have the opportunity to come to the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Peak, and could only stay on the periphery of the sect. Shui Yueka only knew that Yanji worked very hard for her cultivation, But she didn't expect that she would end up like this. Ruoshi glanced at Shui Yueka and continued. Her aptitude is very good. According to her age, her cultivation speed is slightly faster, but it's not to the point where her foundation is completely destroyed. Her foundation was destroyed because she used a lot of low-level and low-quality medicinal pills to accumulate her cultivation. As a result, her cultivation speed indeed accelerated in the short term, but Ruoshi didn't continue. But Shui Yueka naturally understood what she meant. Yanji was anxious for quick results, and because she couldn't afford expensive cultivation resources, she could only use the worst medicinal pills or other things to cultivate. In the end, she ended up harming herself. In fact, her cultivation is still low. If you want to save her, or even improve her aptitude on her current foundation, it's not impossible. When Shui Yueka heard Ruoshi's words, she immediately looked at Ruoshi. She and Yanji weren't friends, nor did they have any relationship. Since Ningcheng cared so much about Yanji, it meant that Yanji was very important to Ningcheng. Ningcheng had saved her life, so no matter what, she had to make sure that she had a clear conscience. At least when Ningcheng woke up, she could say that she tried her best, instead of bowing her head in shame and having nothing to say. Ruoshi understood Shui Yueka's meaning and continued. I can indeed save her. I have a Dao fruit that can stabilize her foundation, dispel impurities, and purify her meridians. My Dao fruit is so valuable that even I wouldn't be willing to use it myself. It would be a bit of a waste for her to use it. Shui Yueka had heard that there was a Dao fruit that could save Yanji. Although this senior had such a Dao fruit, she was reluctant to use it herself. From this, she could imagine the value of this Dao fruit. Perhaps even 100 Yanji's small lives couldn't buy this Dao fruit. She sighed in her heart but didn't speak. This kind of heaven-defying Dao fruit, she didn't even have the guts to ask for it. If Ningcheng woke up, I could make a deal with him. Even if I suffered a loss, it would still be considered as doing him a favor. But when I looked at Ningcheng's ring just now, I didn't find anything in his ring that I liked. As for the kind of spirit pill I wanted, I didn't see even one, so. Ruoshi looked at Shui Yueka and shook her head. She didn't want to give one of her treasured sacred essence fruits to a little cultivator in the life and death realm for no reason. She didn't want to do such a thing. She no longer owed Ningcheng anything. Shui Yueka suddenly remembered the bottle of Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills that Ningcheng had given her. This bottle still had 9 Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills inside. Thinking of this, Shui Yueka didn't hesitate to take out the bottle of Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills and handed it to Ruoshi. Senior, I still have a bottle of Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills. A total of 9. Empyrean consciousness transmutation pill? Ruoshi's eyes flashed with surprise. She had tried everything to save Ningcheng, but it was also to repay Ningcheng for helping her. She might have also thought of asking Ningcheng for the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills. But because Ningcheng's cultivation was too weak, she didn't think that Ningcheng's storage device could be stored in the depths of his sea of consciousness. Treasures that could be stored in one sea of consciousness weren't ordinary things. I agree. This is a sacred essence fruit. Ruoshi took out a jade box and handed it to Shui Yueka without hesitation. She then took the jade bottle from Shui Yueka's hand. According to the actual price, the 9 Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills in Shui Yueka's hand couldn't even buy the skin of her Dao fruit. But money couldn't buy anything. What she needed right now was the Empyrean consciousness transmutation pills. Although the sacred essence fruit was precious, it didn't have much effect on her. I'm leaving. I'll give you this flight-type weapon. After Ruoshi finished, her figure flashed and disappeared without a trace. She didn't even explain to Shui Yueka about the preciousness of the sacred essence fruit. As soon as Ruoshi left, Shui Yueka's consciousness received an extra spiritual sense to control the airship-type weapon. She knew that the senior from before had given it to her, so that she could refine the airship-type weapon more quickly. Shui Yueka sighed and opened the jade box while controlling the airship-type weapon to speed up. A white transparent fruit was placed in the middle of the jade box. As soon as the jade box was opened, a fragrant smell permeated the air. Shui Yueka only took a sniff and felt her entire spiritual soul becoming much clearer. Even an idiot would know the value of this Dao fruit. What's more, Shui Yueka came from the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao pond. At this moment, Shui Yueka even wanted to put this Dao fruit into her mouth. She felt sure that once she took the sacred essence fruit, she would quickly succeed in Dao sculpting. Not only that, but her future cultivation potential would also increase by a lot. As the refreshing fragrance continued to overflow, Shui Yueka took in a deep breath and forcibly held back her greed. She then put the Dao fruit into Yanji's mouth. The sacred essence fruit fell into Yanji's mouth and turned into a gurgling aura that flowed into Yanji's body. In just half an incense stick worth of time, a faint black aura emanated from Yanji's body. The deathly aura condensed on Yanji's body instantly spread out, and Yanji's vitality grew more and more exuberant. After another half incense stick worth of time, some tiny impurities started to seep out of Yanji's body. Shui Yueka frowned slightly. From these impurities, she could feel the inferior quality of the medicinal pill Yanji had taken. Then she saw Yanji's eyes twitch slightly. Shui Yueka knew that Yanji was about to wake up. She quickly raised her hand and formed a few restrictions to hide Ningcheng. She feared that Yanji, who had just recovered, would suddenly see Ningcheng's appearance. Yanji opened her eyes and saw Shui Yueka sitting not far from her, staring at her. She quickly called out, "Senior apprentice Sister Shui, are you here to take me to the spiritual soul union?" Shui Yueka showed a smile and pointed to some impurities on the surface of Yanji's body. "This is an airship-type weapon, and we're running for our lives. Hurry up and go to the cabin to clean yourself, and then I'll tell you in detail." Yanji discovered the filth on her body and immediately rushed into the cabin with a flushed face. The moment she entered the cabin, she guessed that it was senior apprentice Sister Shui who saved her. As for why Shui Yueka saved her, she couldn't figure it out. After a half-incense stick worth of time, Yanji finished cleaning and changed into a light yellow robe before coming out. As soon as she came out, she bowed to Shui Yueka. "Although I don't know why senior apprentice Sister Shui saved me, Yanji will always be grateful to senior apprentice sister for saving me." When Yanji cleaned herself, she understood that not only had her foundation recovered, but her aptitude had also improved by a level. The lightness and endless potential of her body made her feel like she couldn't believe it. She had to figure out what was going on. Shui Yueka looked at Yanji in shock. To be honest, Yanji was much more beautiful than her. But at this time, Yanji looked even more stunning. She looked like a tender lotus in the morning with a drop of morning dew hanging on it. Perhaps no one in the entire 9 Revolutions sacred Dao pond could compare to her. Not only that, but because she was so close to Yanji, Shui Yueka could even feel a faint body fragrance coming from Yanji. Chapter 940. Is this the heavenly fragrant body? Shui Yueka finally came to her senses and exclaimed in surprise. Immediately after, her eyes flashed with horror as she stared at Yanji in a daze, not knowing what to do. The heavenly fragrant body was 100% female, and their bodies had a natural light fragrance. To be precise, the heavenly fragrant body was not only a kind of body fragrance, but also a kind of supplementary aptitude. This kind of body would allow a cultivator to absorb faster during cultivation. Their comprehension would be even more astonishing, and their advancement speed would also be far faster than others. However, the heavenly fragrant physique was also one of the most tragic types of support aptitudes. Women with this type of physique would most likely not have a good ending. This was because this kind of body was a natural peerless furnace. As long as a cultivator discovered the heavenly fragrant body, they would not give it up. Regardless of which cultivator it was, if they had this kind of cauldron, their cultivation would be twice the result with half the effort. Not only that, but the cultivator's comprehension of the Tao of heaven and earth would also be significantly enhanced. Of course, this referred to using the heavenly fragrant body as a cultivation furnace. If it was just a dual cultivation companion, the effect would be very ordinary for male cultivators. How many cultivators would take a woman with a heavenly fragrant physique as their Tao companion? What made people even more helpless was that the heavenly fragrant body could not be concealed at all. No matter where it was, as long as it was a heavenly fragrant body, it would be discovered. The reason why Shui Yueka panicked was because she had discovered that Yanji possessed the heavenly fragrant body. She had no way to hide it. In other words, once the two of them stepped out of the airship, Yanji would definitely be discovered. This was just one of the dangers. The heavenly fragrance body had another nickname, the heavenly fragrance saintess body. A woman with this kind of body was most suitable to be a sex saintess. Even if she was not found and taken away by other male cultivators, she would be found and taken away by a big sect and become the saintess of a big sect. If these were not the most frightening thing, then the blood of the female cultivator with the heavenly fragrant body could be used to refine the heavenly fragrant pill, which was almost a fatal threat. The heavenly fragrance pill could allow female cultivators to have a natural body fragrance, and it could also enhance a female cultivator's cultivation speed and comprehension aptitude. For the first point, it was something that every female cultivator yearned for. Think about it. If a woman with a heavenly fragrant body was discovered by an alchemist, what would happen then? Yanji saw Shui Yueka's gaze change from envy to shock, and then to panic. She instantly understood what was going on. Heavenly fragrant body. She actually had the heavenly fragrant body. She only knew that she had a natural body fragrance after advancing to the heaven-seated realm. However, her natural body fragrance was very faint. She usually tried her best to hide it, and she had always done a good job. But who would have thought that when he woke up this time, he would become the heavenly fragrant body? After Yanji figured out the reason for Shui Yueka's panic, she also started to panic. If she really had the heavenly fragrant body, then she would have nowhere to hide. No matter where she hid, she would be found. It could also be said that before she could find a place to hide, she would be found. What to do? Yanji looked at Shui Yueka and forgot why Shui Yueka had saved her. Shui Yueka also looked at Yanji. She didn't even remember about Ningcheng for the time being. At this time they were on the airship. Once the airship stopped, and the two of them went to a crowded place, the matter of Yanji's heavenly fragrant body would be discovered. Additionally, even on a flying ship, powerful cultivators would be able to sense the heavenly fragrant physique. It was like a blooming flower that could not be concealed even if one wanted to. Shui Yueka suddenly thought of the woman who saved Yanji. That woman had such a powerful cultivation. Didn't she know that Yanji would form the heavenly fragrant body after taking the sacred essence fruit? Thinking of this, Shui Yueka quickly took out the jade box again. This time, she finally saw a thin jade piece with a lotus engraved at the bottom of the jade box. Shui Yueka picked up the jade piece and saw a red thread connecting it. A line of faint handwriting appeared in front of Shui Yueka. Yanji's body has a natural fragrance. After taking the sacred essence fruit, there is a 10% chance for her to form the heavenly fragrant body. In case she forms the heavenly fragrant body, remember to wear this lotus jade piece. This jade piece can also help her for a few years. If she can't reach the Tao confirming realm in these few years, then let her hide in a place and never come out. As the handwriting faded away, Shui Yueka felt extremely happy. Not to mention hiding for a few years, even if she could hide for a few months, she would be satisfied. A few months was more than enough for Yanji to find a place to hide in seclusion. Wear this for you. Fortunately, that senior left behind a jade piece before he left. Otherwise, I really wouldn't know what to do. Shui Yueka quickly handed the jade piece to Yanji and breathed a sigh of relief. Which senior? Yanji apparently also saw the line of handwriting and asked. Shui Yueka quickly told the whole story. When Shui Yueka finished speaking, Yanji stared at Shui Yueka with wide eyes. She looked at Shui Yueka with a look of disbelief. After a long time she stuttered, "Senior apprentice Sister Shui, you said he." Seeing that Yanji couldn't express herself, Shui Yueka nodded and took the initiative to speak. "Yes, Ningcheng is here." Shui Yueka raised her hand and removed the concealment restriction, revealing the seriously injured Ningcheng who still couldn't wake up. Fearing that Ningcheng's current appearance would be exposed, Shui Yueka had already removed the disguise on Ningcheng's face. Ningcheng. The moment Yanji saw Ningcheng, Her heart started beating violently. Even her legs started to tremble. She wanted to rush up to him, but she couldn't even take a step. In order to find Ningcheng, she had lost too much and experienced too much. But now Ningcheng was right in front of her. Immediately Yanji felt Ningcheng's serious injuries. Her trembling legs suddenly regained their strength, and she directly rushed up and hugged Ningcheng in her arms. She even wanted to transfer her essence qi into Ningcheng's body. Wait! Shui Yueka quickly stopped Yanji's actions and repeated Ruoshi's words. Only then did Yanji sober up. That's right, Shui Yueka's cultivation was much higher than hers. If she could save Ningcheng, wouldn't senior apprentice sister Shui have already done it? Yanji's confusion, her great joy at seeing Ningcheng, and now her endless worry, all of it was reflected in this moment. Senior apprentice sister Shui, what should we do? Tears welled up in the corners of Yanji's eyes. At this moment, she was completely at a loss. Even when her foundation was completely destroyed and her life force dissipated, she didn't feel at a loss, nor did she despair. But at this moment, she was at a loss and didn't know what to do. Seeing Yanji hugging Ningcheng and crying without knowing what to do, Shui Yueka sighed in her heart. Wait. Shui Yueka spoke up firmly. That senior said that Ningcheng can only rely on himself. If others help him, they might end up harming him. She didn't expect that the person Yanji liked was Ningcheng. But when she thought about Ningcheng's performance in the Grand Essence Great Meat and the extraterritorial Spirit Spring, she felt relieved. Yanji had high standards and she wasn't wrong about him. Compared to Ji Pingzhong, whom she originally wanted to marry, Ningcheng was many times better. Shui Yueka walked up to Yanji and put the jade piece engraved with a lotus flower around Yanji's neck. The faint fragrance from Yanji's body slowly converged. Unless one was in the same room as her, one would never be able to smell it. Junior apprentice sister Yanji, it's useless to feel sad. The 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Pond is still chasing us. We'd better run as far away as possible. Shui Yueka persuaded from the side. Yanji slowly took in a deep breath and finally stopped crying. She wiped her eyes, put Ningcheng aside, walked up to Shui Yueka, and bowed to Shui Yueka. Senior apprentice sister Shui, Yanji will never forget your kindness. When the airship arrives at a secluded place, you can put Ningcheng and me down. How can we do that? Shui Yueka spoke up in shock. You're only in the life and death realm, and Ningcheng is seriously injured. If I put you down, wouldn't that be? Shui Yueka didn't finish her words, but she believed that Yanji understood what she meant. Yanji picked up Ningcheng again, but her tone turned calm. Even her entire person had changed. Senior apprentice sister Shui, I mean it. When I was still a small cultivator in the profound congealing realm, Big Brother Ning took me through one danger after another. If it weren't for Big Brother Ning, I would have died a long time ago. Heaven sent Big Brother Ning to me again, and I feel very grateful. I like him a lot, I really like him. I cultivated desperately to find Big Brother Ning. Now that I found him, I have no regrets. In the future, no matter what, I will accompany Big Brother Ning. At this point, Yanji looked up at Shui Yueka. Senior apprentice sister Shui, you and I are different. Your future achievements are destined to be immeasurable. You have to seek an opportunity to sculpt your Dao. Maybe your Dao sculpting is just around the corner. Shui Yueka understood Yanji's words. If she didn't take Yanji and Ningcheng with her, she would have to sculpt her Dao. Moreover, she would have a high chance of success. If she took Yanji and Ningcheng with her, her Dao sculpting would be postponed indefinitely. Her life might even be in danger. After all, Yanji had a heavenly fragrant body. Once someone discovered Yanji's heavenly fragrant body, that person would never let the people around Yanji live. Shui Yueka sighed. No wonder Ningcheng risked his life to save you. You deserve a man to pay so much for you. Yanji looked down at the lifeless Ningcheng. She had jumped into the blood river twice for Ningcheng. She had roamed the starry sky for Ningcheng and suffered countless hardships. She didn't know how many times she had almost died. She didn't know how many times she had woken up from her sleep. Because ever since she left the Lu continent, she had never had a day of peace and stability. For Ningcheng, in addition to crazily cultivating, she also crazily cultivated. Every time she entered the demonic beast's territory, she would comfort herself by saying that as long as there were cultivation resources, she would quickly find Ning Cheng. Over and over again, year after year. She would never forget that after learning of Ning Cheng's death in the Grand Essence ruins, she hid and cried for several days and nights. She couldn't forget that after learning that Ning Cheng had entered the land of broken laws, she desperately cultivated just to enter the land of broken laws. In the end, when she learned that her foundation had been destroyed, she was at a loss. When she heard Shui Yueka say that Ning Cheng rushed out of the pond to snatch her from a Dao birth realm and a Dao transformation realm Holy Emperor, all the hardships she had suffered over the years had completely disappeared and turned into yearning. A yearning without any promises. She couldn't tell anyone about it, nor could she express it. Only after experiencing all those hardships and trials could she understand the true meaning behind them. She had experienced all of this. Chapter 941. Shui Yueka remained silent. If there was no deep hatred between them, she would have definitely stayed with Yanji and Ningcheng. But she couldn't. She still had a deep hatred, so she had to find a place to model her Dao. If such a day came, she would definitely fight her way to the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Pond to avenge her sister, Shui Yuexin. Junior apprentice sister Yanji, how about this? This place is still too close to the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Pond. We'll have to fly for a few months. If Ningqing doesn't wake up by then, I'll find a place to sculpt my Dao. Shui Yueka decided that if Ningqing didn't wake up in a few months, then it would be very difficult for him to wake up. Without the 9 Revolution sacred Dao Pond's people chasing after him, Yanji would be enough to take care of Ningcheng. With the people from the 9 Revolutions sacred Dao Pond chasing after them, it wouldn't help even if she joined them. She really needed to model her Dao. If she didn't model her Dao, how could she avenge her little sister? Furnace Sand wasn't a material, but the name of a place. Rumor has it that Furnace Sand got its name because a powerful pill saint once concocted pills here. The pill saint who was refining the medicinal pills, because he underestimated the difficulty of the furnace of medicinal pills, he destroyed the furnace of medicinal pills. The ingredients for this cauldron of pills were all made up of top-grade heavenly and earthly treasures. This pill saint would never be able to obtain such ingredients again. In a fit of rage, the pill saint destroyed all the pill furnaces. When the pill sage was concocting pills, he absorbed 90% of the god's spiritual energy in this area. Later, when the pill furnace was smashed, the terrifying temperature of the pill furnace turned this area into a barren wasteland. This place had become a place where there were no spiritual herbs and no vitality. After countless years, this place slowly regained some vitality, and some low-level spirit herbs appeared. However, the god's spiritual chi here had always been extremely sparse. Some cultivators who could not cultivate or were unable to advance slowly migrated here. In the end, this place gradually formed a group of residences. The people living in this group were all ordinary people with low cultivation. Some of them even had no cultivation at all. In the Grand Essence realm, ordinary people without cultivation meant death. Therefore, those ordinary people without cultivation, or some ordinary cultivators with low cultivation, would gather together to live. Furnace Sand was such a place. There were many descendants of cultivators here. They couldn't cultivate or their cultivation levels couldn't increase. The whole of Furnace Sand was like a village, with irregular buildings everywhere. The elixir shop, spirit herb shop, and magic tool shop were all extremely simple and crude. There were even some grocery stores here. If a cultivator suddenly came to Furnace Sand, they would never believe that this was a place from the Grand Essence realm. Instead, they would think that this was a corner of the lowest level true cultivation world. In fact, this place was indeed part of the Grand Essence realm, but it was at the edge of the Grand Essence realm. The sun was setting. One after another, some figures returned from afar. They were all ordinary people and cultivators with low cultivation bases who had gone to the Black White Mountain Range in search of cultivation resources. Those with high cultivation bases generally wouldn't come back every day. Instead, they would stay in the Black White Mountain Range. A gray-clothed woman walked over from afar. The gradually slanting setting sun cast a long shadow on her. Behind her, there was a person in deep sleep secured by an artifact strap. Her hair was a little messy from the night wind, and the slightly messy hair fell beside the corner of her eyes, which was covered by a veil, adding a touch of gentleness to her beauty. All the people living in Furnace Sand knew this gray-robed woman, and knew that she was called Yanji. That's right, this gray-robed woman was Yanji. After staying with her for half a year, Shui Yueka left to seek her Dao sculpting realm. Yanji took Ning Cheng to a remote place until they arrived at Furnace Sand. The Furnace Sand lacked spiritual qi, and powerhouses wouldn't come here at all. For Yanji, this was the most suitable place for her to live. Looking back, Yanji had been in Furnace Sand for 3 years now. During these 3 years, she had never left Ningqing alone. Even when she went to the Black-White Mountain Range in search of cultivation resources, she never left Ningqing behind. Thanks to the sacred essence fruit, Yanji managed to advance to the middle stage life and death realm in this place that lacked spiritual qi. In Furnace Sand, Yanji's cultivation wasn't the highest, but she definitely belonged to the high-leveled group. Only a few people came to provoke her. Occasionally, 1 or 2 cultivators who didn't open their eyes came over, but she killed them without hesitation. Yanji traveled from the starry sky to the void, from one celestial river to another, and even came to the Grand Essence realm. She had no one to rely on. She could grow to the life and death realm just by relying on her own efforts. She had experienced many life and death battles along the way. Moreover, she also had rich combat experience against cultivators in the same realm. As long as they weren't particularly heaven-defying, she didn't fear them at all. Besides, it wasn't like she hadn't done anything before. For someone like her, coming to a corner like Furnace Sand, she naturally didn't fear some small fry. Yanji originally wanted to rush to the late-stage life and death realm before leaving the Black-White Mountain Range. But recently, she felt that Ningqing seemed to have some aura fluctuations, and this aura fluctuations were getting stronger and stronger. Not only was the aura fluctuations getting stronger and stronger, but Ningqing's grizzled hair had also gradually turned gray, and some of it had even started to turn black. Because of these changes, Yanji felt that Ningqing might wake up. Therefore, she left the Black-White Mountain Range with Ningqing and returned to Furnace Sand. Half of the Black-White Mountain Range was covered in black soil, while the other half was covered in white soil. This mountain range was only 10,000 miles away from Furnace Sand. Although it didn't have many high-grade divine grasses, it had some powerful high-level demonic beasts because of its vast expanse. The distance between the Black-White Mountain Range and Furnace Sand was almost non-existent. However, no demonic beasts came to Furnace Sand because the spiritual qi in Furnace Sand was too weak. It was so weak that even the lowest-level demonic beasts didn't want to come here. If Ningqing wanted to wake up, then he definitely couldn't stay on her back. Yanji feared that the Black-White Mountain Range would be in danger, and she wouldn't be able to take care of Ningqing for a while. Therefore, she hurried back to Furnace Sand with Ningqing. As soon as she entered Furnace Sand, Yanji felt that something was wrong. She had left Furnace Sand for less than 2 months, but there were already many strange faces here. Moreover, their cultivations weren't weak. She even saw several eternal-level experts. Some of them even had cultivations beyond the eternal realm. Although she couldn't see their cultivation, she guessed that they shouldn't be any weaker than Dao sculpting cultivators. Yanji regretted coming out of the Black-White Mountain Range, but she quickly understood the situation. These people seemed to have come for the Black-White Mountain Range because people kept entering the Black-White Mountain Range, regardless of the dark sky. Yanji quickly lowered her head and hurried into Furnace Sand. Some of the messy buildings on the periphery of Furnace Sand had long since been leveled and replaced by some luxury-looking caves and weapons. When she arrived at her residence, Yanji found that her residence had also been leveled. Yanji didn't dare to ask what was going on. She just sped up and left. When her spiritual consciousness swept over a group of people who lived in Furnace Sand all year round, she felt slightly relieved. These people had no choice but to move away from their original places, because outsiders had already leveled their residences. Some people had sad expressions on their faces, most likely because outsiders killed their people. It seems that these outsiders didn't intend to kill them all. Uncle Yu? Why are there so many outsiders? Yanji quickened her pace and whispered to an old man in the crowd. Uncle Yu's name was Yu Kaifeng, and he had a celestial gatherer realm cultivation. Moreover, he was born in the Grand Essence realm and cultivated with spirit qi since childhood. Otherwise, with his qualifications, he wouldn't have even formed a domain, let alone nirvana. It's just that if he didn't break through, his lifespan would soon reach its end. With Yu Caifeng's aging meridians and bones, and in a place with almost no spirit qi, it would be extremely difficult for him to break through. For a cultivator who had never cultivated before, cultivating with spirit qi from the very beginning would result in a much higher height than cultivators who cultivated with spirit qi. Moreover, spirit qi wasn't omnipotent. No matter how high it made you stand, it would eventually lose its effect. Yu Kaifeng sighed and whispered, I heard that someone found a pill furnace in the black and white forest. This pill furnace was left behind by that pill sage. That pill sage's pill furnace wasn't broken. These people came here to look for this pill furnace. Some people even said that there's a world inside the pill furnace, with many treasures. Yu Kaifeng sighed as he spoke until here. It would be difficult for us to live here in peace in the future. After saying that, he lowered his head and didn't answer Yanji's words. Yanji's heart sank. This was the last thing she wanted to see. She had long since felt satisfied with living a peaceful life with Ning Cheng here. These outsiders wanted to find the pill furnace left behind by the pill sage. How could she continue to stay here? Yanji looked back at Ning Cheng, who still hadn't woken up. She knew that she had to leave now. The lotus jade piece she wore on her chest gradually faded. If no powerhouses came here, she wouldn't care much about it. Once a powerhouse came here, it would expose the fact that she possessed the heavenly fragrant body, which would turn into a disaster. Right at this moment, an extremely swift and fierce killing intent blasted over. Yanji had experienced too many life and death situations. Therefore, when this killing intent shot over, she felt her scalp tingling. At this moment, she didn't have time to think about anything else. Condensing all her celestial essence, she turned into a shadow and escaped from the side. Boom! As the killing intent exploded, Yanji's spiritual consciousness swept over, and found that it was a sword light. The sword light then cut through the group of people she was in. A mist of blood splashed out. Except for some cultivators with powerful cultivations, most of them disappeared under this sword light. Yu Kaifeng, who was still sighing a moment ago, had already disappeared without a trace. Apparently, he had fallen under this sword light. The few people who survived were like birds startled by the mere twang of a bough. How could they dare to look back and say anything? Instead, they stimulated all their celestial essence and rushed away. Yanji also stimulated her celestial essence, and almost brought out her most powerful escape technique to rush out. In the face of such a ruthless person who killed without any reason, what else could she do except to escape as soon as possible? Brother Xiong, didn't you just say that the Yin-Yang pill furnace might not be in the Black-White Mountain range, but in the furnace sand? A man wearing a golden cultivator robe asked a male cultivator, wearing a brocaded robe with a smile on his face. After asking, he pointed to the huge gully created by the sword light and spoke. If my sword fell down, then if there were any treasures underneath, then there would definitely be some aura overflowing. But the truth is that there was nothing but mud underneath. From the looks of it, he was the one who created that sword light. His purpose was to see if there were any treasures underneath. As for the hundreds of people he killed, he didn't even bother to mention it. The man called Brother Xiong stared in the direction that Yanji escaped and frowned. Why do I feel that something is wrong? Chapter 942. Boom. A shocking red pillar burst out from the depths of the Black-White Mountain range, and bursts of spatial fluctuations spread out. The golden-robed man and the embroidered-robed man called Brother Xiong didn't even bother asking each other. Instead, they both rushed over. This kind of shocking red pillar was most likely related to the pill furnace. Perhaps it was the remnant pill fire within the pill furnace. Thinking about it, How could a flame that could be refined by a pill saint be an ordinary flame? It would be strange if no one tried to snatch such a flame when it appeared. Just as Ruoxi said, although Ningqing showed no aura, he hadn't died. His primordial spirit had been brewing in his mind palace. Not only did his sea of consciousness not split open because of the divine explosion pill, it had even expanded. In fact, if not for Ningqing's sea of consciousness being too powerful, he would not have needed to burn his essence blood and lifespan after swallowing the explosive spirit pill. Who swallowed the explosive spirit pill? At the very least, one would need to be in the soul sculpting realm or above. What kind of cultivation did Ningqing have? Even if he finished transforming his celestial essence, he would still be an eternal cultivator. Within Ningqing's vast starry sky-like sea of consciousness, his life essence sat within. The mysterious yellow bead in his Zifu was constantly overflowing with the mysterious yellow origin, nourishing his broken meridians and damaged foundation. Even his blood essence and lifespan, under the nourishment of the mysterious yellow origin's aura, were slowly recovering. However, his sea of consciousness was still expanding. Although his sea of consciousness was able to protect Ningqing's life essence from collapsing, allowing his life essence to have a place to reside, but it was not enough to help Ningqing completely wake up. On the contrary, the starry sky sea of consciousness was still sharing the mysterious yellow origin aura, which prevented Ningqing from waking up. If Ningqing could heal on his own, he would naturally not hesitate to use this origin aura to nourish his broken meridians. Unfortunately, Ningqing could not heal on his own. He only had a vague consciousness, which was shrouded by a layer of fog, making it impossible for him to clearly see his own situation. Ningqing's mysterious yellow origin had gathered the 4 kinds of heaven and earth origin auras of metal, water, fire and earth. After so many years of restoration and nourishment, the damage caused by the spirit explosion pill and the burning of Ningqing's foundation had gradually healed. His meridians were recovering. His foundation was recovering. As Ningqing's consciousness grew clearer and clearer, a kind of Tao sense also gradually formed. The heaven and earth returned to the origin. The origin condensed into a cultivation technique. The cultivation technique became a divine ability, and the divine ability became a great Tao. The great Tao began to form, and the Tao rhyme also gradually took shape. My Tao relies on the mysterious yellow formless. My Tao relies on the source of creation. My Tao is the Tao of creation. My Tao is the Tao of the origin. With such a supreme opportunity, why should I worry about not being able to reach the great Tao? I don't need to seek the Tao fruit for my Tao sculpting. I don't need to go through hardships for my Tao sculpting. My Tao runes exist in the heaven and earth. Xianhuang molded his Tao, condensed his Tao aura, and completed his Tao. Attached to the profound yellow, yin and yang collide. All living things mix together, vast and intangible. I have already molded my Tao, and I have sworn to complete my Tao. He swore an oath to complete his Tao. Swear to succeed. Faintly, bursts of calls echoed within Ningqing's vast and boundless sea of consciousness. If not for Ningqing's sea of consciousness being so vast and boundless, Ningqing would not have been able to withstand this kind of faint call from his consciousness. The primordial spirit sitting in the sea of consciousness had a clear consciousness. As long as he stood up and swore according to the call of the underworld, his Tao will would be complete. As long as his Tao will took shape, he would be able to reassemble his spirit essence and restore his consciousness the next moment. Even if Ningqing's consciousness was in a state of chaos and not fully awake, Ningqing still felt that something was wrong. He wanted to sculpt his own Tao, not make an oath to complete his Tao. What's more, he vaguely felt even more uncomfortable. That was, the mysterious yellow bead was attached to him, and the origin of good fortune also existed because of him. When did he become attached to the mysterious yellow bead and the origin of good fortune? Another reason was that he had always been comprehending the Tao of returning to one. The mysterious yellow bead was attached to him, but it only assisted him. Yet, at this time, it interfered with his Tao confirming. What did this mean? Unfortunately, Ningqing's spiritual sense was weak at this time, and his consciousness was in a state of chaos. This kind of autonomous perception was just a negligible resistance. Even if he knew that as long as he swore with his primordial spirit, He could immediately wake up as a Tao sculpting powerhouse. However, Ningqing forcibly endured it. This didn't seem to be the Tao he wanted. Not only that, but he also vaguely felt something wrong with the mysterious yellow bead. At this moment, another sense of unease emerged from the depths of his spirit soul. It felt as if his life was threatened at this moment. If you don't reach Tao confirming, you will become an ant. If you don't reach Tao confirming, you will die. If you don't reach Tao confirming, you will die. Ningqing's primordial spirit sitting in his sea of consciousness trembled slightly. Even if there were more dangers, he didn't want to reach Tao confirming at this time. This Tao seemed to be very different from the Tao he wanted. It didn't make him feel any passion at all. Instead, it was filled with a deathly aura. No, this isn't my Tao. Threaten me with death? This isn't my Tao, and I will never compromise. The mysterious yellow bead is my world, and it is attached to me. The origin of good fortune is the origin aura of the mysterious yellow bead, and the other 4 origins were also found by me. These origin auras are my things. How can I attach myself to these things to increase my Tao? My Tao is condensed from myself. My Tao is unique between heaven and earth. My Tao is not attached to any external objects. My Tao is to return all things to one. Ningqing's mind was firm, and his heart was stimulated. The will of his spiritual soul grew stronger and more stubborn. Even if he couldn't reach Tao confirming, even if he died, he didn't want to reach Tao confirming. Even if he only had a chaotic consciousness, even if his primordial spirit was being manipulated, he still didn't want to reach Tao confirming by relying on the mysterious yellow bead. Bang! A kind of berserk power suddenly exploded out from Ningqing's mysterious yellow bead, causing Ningqing's Zifu to tremble and give off a rumbling sound. Ningqing's body trembled, and his primordial spirit grew weaker. Although he couldn't release his spiritual consciousness at this time, Ningqing's primordial spirit's consciousness became clearer. Ningqing, whose consciousness was still in a chaotic state, didn't want to reach Tao confirming. But now that he had sobered up, his will became even firmer. Although he couldn't release his spiritual consciousness, his consciousness could completely control his Zifu and sea of consciousness. At this time, Ningqing no longer cared about the wood origin bead. He didn't hesitate to throw the half of the wood origin bead into the mysterious yellow bead. A power that he couldn't control appeared in the mysterious yellow bead. If it weren't for his strong will, he would have already reached Tao confirming by relying on the mysterious yellow bead. As soon as the wood origin bead fell into the mysterious yellow bead, endless wood origin aura spread out. This wood origin aura and the rest of the origin aura condensed together, turning into endless verdant colors in an instant. The mysterious yellow bead, which originally had a dull aura, suddenly gained a new color after the wood origin aura dissolved. The mountains were no longer dark yellow, and the earth was no longer covered in yellow shadows. The earth began to clear up, the mountains began to turn verdant, the breeze began to form, and the sea began to roar. It was as if spring had suddenly arrived. The whole world suddenly became wonderful, and the 5 elements gathered together, giving birth to all kinds of vitality. Even his severely injured foundation was recovering at an even faster rate. Perhaps in the next moment, he would be able to open his eyes and regain his vitality. Ningqing felt shocked as he felt everything within his spiritual sense. He didn't expect that the incomplete wood origin bead could condense such a complete mysterious yellow world. Every nook and cranny of the mysterious yellow bead became clear in his consciousness. Every inch of soil could be seen in his divine sense. A consciousness condensed in the depths of his spiritual soul. Did this mean that the mysterious yellow bead had completely recognized him as its master? There were no signs, and there was nothing wrong with it. The next moment, he clearly understood the role of the entire mysterious yellow bead. Even if he took out the mysterious yellow bead and held it in his hand, no one would be able to recognize that it was the mysterious yellow bead in his hand. The mysterious yellow aura completely integrated into the mysterious yellow bead, and no longer overflowed. The mysterious yellow bead began to form a new world, a brand new place. Ningqing could feel the sun, moon and stars slowly forming inside the mysterious yellow bead. This was the real sun, moon and stars. At the same time, he also understood that at this moment, he could plant any spiritual grasses in the mysterious yellow bead and place anything in it. He no longer needed to arrange the minor 5 elements array formation. The only thing he couldn't do was bring a life like him into the mysterious yellow bead. In other words, he couldn't bring people into the mysterious yellow bead. That was because the mysterious yellow bead lacked a part of the wood origin bead, which made it feel unconsciously unsafe. Ningcheng suddenly thought of the voice that had bewitched him, and even threatened him with death to confirm his Tao. The mysterious yellow bead was a good fortune object, so how could it contain such a will? As Ningcheng thought of this, his thoughts covered the entire mysterious yellow bead. Almost as soon as Ningcheng's thoughts moved, he saw a weak spiritual soul in a corner of the mysterious yellow bead. That spiritual soul's entire body was on the verge of collapse, but at this moment it was staring at Ningcheng with a pair of cloudy eyes. It looked as if it wanted to swallow Ningcheng in one bite and eat him up. Ningcheng's life essence shivered. He didn't think that there would be another spiritual soul in his mysterious yellow bead other than himself. That's right, it was this spiritual soul that had tried to confirm his Tao. The mysterious yellow bead was a good fortune object, so it naturally would not bewitch him. This spiritual soul was most likely the previous owner of the mysterious yellow bead. Although that person had fallen, he still left a trace of his consciousness in the mysterious yellow bead. As long as he listened to his bewitchment, and relied on the mysterious yellow bead to confirm his Tao, then in the future when that person took control of the mysterious yellow bead, he would become his slave. Thinking of this, Ningcheng broke out in a cold sweat. It was just too dangerous. If not for his firm will, if not for this spiritual soul being so weak, his efforts to reach this point would have ended up benefiting others. Ningcheng figured this out and suddenly felt extremely angry. He immediately roared towards the true spirit world. Chasing Bull, come out and devour this trash's soul. Chasing Bull was originally a life essence. But after gaining the body of the wind-seeking heavenly bull, it no longer needed to devour souls and life essences. However, this broken spiritual soul had once obtained the mysterious yellow bead, which meant that it must be extraordinary. Even if it was just a weak part of the spiritual soul, it was more than enough for Chasing Bull. Chapter 943. Ningcheng's consciousness fell into a daze, and his life essence condensed into his sea of consciousness. Chasing Bull couldn't get Ningcheng's permission, and could only live in fear inside the true spirit world. Chasing Bull had followed Ningcheng for a long time, and naturally knew that Ningcheng's true spirit world was inside the minor 5-element array formation. If Ningcheng didn't reinforce the minor 5-element array formation for a long time, the mysterious yellow bead might turn the true spirit world into nothingness. While in fear, Chasing Bull obtained Ningcheng's permission, and rushed out of the true spirit world without any hesitation. Then, it looked at the vast world inside the mysterious yellow bead in shock. Even with Chasing Bull's poor cultivation, it understood that the laws of heaven and earth in this world were many times stronger than the true spirit world. Right, this was the mysterious yellow bead's world. Since it appeared in the mysterious yellow bead's world without any problems, it meant that Master's mysterious yellow bead had been completely perfected. Stupid Bull, hurry up and devour that trash's soul. Seeing Chasing Bull still in a daze, Ningcheng roared. Even if the trace of life essence left in the mysterious yellow bead was extremely weak, Ningcheng still felt uncomfortable. It was as if an outsider was hiding in his home. It would be strange if he felt comfortable. This trace of soul grasped the perfect timing. When he was at his weakest, it invaded his consciousness and tempted him to confirm his Tao. If it weren't for this time, even if this remnant soul was tens of thousands of times stronger, he could have easily destroyed it. This trace of soul not only grasped the perfect timing, but even its forbearance wasn't something ordinary people could do. If this trace of soul had killed him in the mysterious yellow bead when his cultivation was still low, he wouldn't have been able to do anything about it. If he let this trace of soul survive, Ningcheng wouldn't be able to fall asleep at night. He vaguely felt that this soul was very powerful, so powerful that he couldn't even dream of it. If Ningcheng had known that this half of the wood origin bead could make the mysterious yellow bead recognize him as its master, he would have thrown this half of the wood origin bead into the mysterious yellow bead a long time ago. Chasing Bull received Ning Cheng's order and quickly replied, "Yes, master, I'll go and eat it immediately." Even if Ning Cheng's body was too weak, his life essence could still control the mysterious yellow bead. However, this remnant soul was countless times weaker than Ning Cheng's life essence. As such, in Ning Cheng's domain, it simply did not have the power to resist. "Wait. I have a great opportunity to tell you. It doesn't matter if you kill me, but before you kill me, I must tell you this opportunity. Otherwise, I won't be able to rest in peace even if I die. This opportunity will not only allow you to become the master of the universe, but it will also allow your pet to dominate all the sacred beasts under the heavens." When Chasing Bull rushed up to devour the remnant soul screamed out sharply. Chasing Bull didn't even open its mouth before stopping and looking at Ning Cheng with an inquiring expression. The words of this primordial spirit made it feel that it was not worth it to eat it now. Ning Cheng glanced at Chasing Bull with an expressionless face and spoke with a calm voice. "You can step back." Chasing Bull retreated with joy. Even it admired its wise choice. Sure enough, its master had the same thoughts as it, and also wanted to obtain this amazing opportunity. After Chasing Bull retreated, Ning Cheng's life essence suddenly appeared in front of this remnant soul. The remnant soul's eyes showed a look as if it wanted to talk about many things. It opened its mouth slightly and waited for Ning Cheng to ask. Ning Cheng didn't ask anything, nor did he say anything. Instead, he opened his mouth and spat out a flame. As soon as the celestial river flame appeared, it instantly wrapped around the remnant soul. A shrill scream erupted, and the remnant soul turned into ashes under Ning Cheng's celestial river flame before dissipating without a trace. The moment this remnant soul disappeared, Ning Cheng's spirit turned clear, and his consciousness became clearer. Everything finally fell under his control, and he no longer had any blind spots. Ning Cheng gave out a soft sigh. He finally felt the origin of this remnant soul. When he was in the mysterious Yellow Starland, he had gone to the Sacred Light Mountain Range, and a voice had appeared in the Sacred Light Mountain Range's mysterious yellow temple, asking him to worship. After that, a giant golden hand appeared, and that golden hand almost killed him. Later, with the help of the hope-powered Jade Seal, he managed to blast away the giant golden hand. Before the owner of the giant golden hand left, he warned him with a threatening voice. "I will come back to take away the mysterious yellow bead. An ant like you doesn't deserve such a treasure." Now, the remnant soul in his mysterious yellow bead definitely had a trace of connection with the owner of that giant golden hand. This person was not only a ruthless person, but also a cautious one. If not for his injuries, he would have to wait until he obtained the other half of the wood origin bead before completing the mysterious yellow bead. Otherwise, he might have already died. This remnant soul most likely woke up after the encounter in the mysterious yellow temple. It had only been a short time, but it could already interfere with his Tao-confirming realm. If this remnant soul was given a period of time, to what extent would it grow? The mysterious yellow bead belonged to him, and after he suffered serious injuries, his life essence would heal through the mysterious yellow bead. With such a ticking time bomb around him, he had no idea when it would explode. To be able to hide a remnant soul in the mysterious yellow bead without being discovered by its owner, it showed how terrifying this person's scheming and methods were. Fortunately, the strength gap was too big, which allowed him to laugh in the end. As for letting this remnant soul speak about the heaven-shaking opportunity, Ning Cheng didn't even think about it. If there really was such a heaven-shaking opportunity, he didn't believe that this remnant soul would tell him in detail. He had played this kind of delaying method too many times, so how could he fall for it? Whether it was true or not, he wouldn't give this remnant soul a chance to speak. After killing this wisp of remnant soul, Ning Cheng gave out a long sigh of relief. He finally did not have to worry about the future. "Master." Chasing Bull saw that Ning Cheng didn't even ask any questions before bringing out the celestial river to destroy the remnant soul. It immediately cried out in fear. It had stopped to ask for its master's opinion, but its master must have definitely gotten angry. Otherwise, how could its master not give it something to eat with such a high-grade soul? Ningqing glanced at Chasing Bull and spoke with a calm tone. I'll erase all your consciousness about me. You can live on your own. I can't afford to raise a pet beast like you. Let's part ways on good terms. When Chasing Bull heard Ningqing's words, it knew that it was finished. Sure enough, its master was a narrow-minded person. Without even thinking about it, it knelt down and cried with snot and tears. Master, please spare me this time. Next time, even if Master wants me to eat shit, I won't hesitate a single bit. I won't be fooled by shit's words. Master's words are the law of the world. Ningqing gave a cold snort. If I didn't still have some ability, maybe you and that remnant soul would have sold me off. Didn't I hear what this remnant soul said? If I really didn't want you to eat my remnant soul, would I have called out to you? Idiot. Chasing Bull kept nodding its head and didn't dare to resist. Take a rope and tie up your hooves. I'll ground you for 3 months. If you do it again, I won't let you go. I'll kill you directly. Ningqing yelled. Chasing Bull, on hearing that Ningqing didn't continue to drive it away, repeatedly promised and promised. I'm going to start restoring my body's meridians, fusing with my sea of consciousness, and restoring my essence spirit. You're on your own. Ningqing gave a snort. In fact, he didn't let Chasing Bull devour the remnant soul. Apart from the reason that Chasing Bull stopped devouring the remnant soul, there was a more important reason. That was this remnant soul made Ningqing feel too afraid. He feared that after Chasing Bull devoured this remnant soul, not only would it fail to kill the other party, but it would also end up being possessed by the other party. Because of this fear, Ningqing brought out the celestial river sword to kill this remnant soul. Hey master, there's a dead tree here. No, this tree isn't dead yet. Just as Ningqing's essence spirit was about to return to his Zifu, Chasing Bull's surprised voice arrived. As soon as Chasing Bull spoke, Ningqing immediately saw a huge ancient tree. This ancient tree had fallen diagonally to the ground, and half of its trunk had withered. Moreover, most of its trunk was buried underground. If Ningqing didn't care about it, this ancient tree wouldn't have stood out. But once he paid attention to it, Ningqing felt a powerful Dao charm aura coming from this withered ancient tree. Ningqing had obtained a Dao fruit tree, and compared to the previous Dao fruit tree, the Dao charm aura contained in this ancient tree was more than 10,000 times stronger. This must have been a tree that originally existed in the mysterious yellow bead. Ningqing understood it instantly. He then turned to Chasing Bull and said, "You're responsible for planting this tree again. As for the confinement, keep it for the time being. If you perform well, remove it. If you don't, double the punishment." Yes, master. Hearing Ningqing's words, Chasing Bull's bones burst out in laughter. Originally, it had to endure 3 months of being bound by itself. Thinking about it made it shudder. But now, because it accidentally found a tree, its master decided to temporarily remove the punishment. It had to perform well enough to make its master speechless, and reduce the 3 months of torture it had to endure. The moment Ningqing burned a wisp of remnant soul, in the depths of a mountain range countless interfaces away from the Grand Essence realm, an angry scream rang out. A puny ant dared to burn my remnant soul avatar. I will never let you go, ah. However, Ningqing didn't know about any of this. It had nothing to do with him. At this moment, he once again sat down in his sea of consciousness to restore the foundation of his meridians and fuse with his essence spirit. He now had a clear consciousness. Although he still couldn't release his spiritual consciousness, it was much better than the previous passive recovery. In the depths of the Black and White Mountain Range, a pillar of fire rushed out of the ground and reached tens of thousands of feet. Countless powerhouses surrounded this pillar of fire. But even so, more and more powerhouses came over, and more powerhouses gathered around. Because of the powerful flames, the ordinary cultivators and even the holy emperors could only watch from the sidelines. This is a top-grade heavenly fire, definitely left behind by that pill sage. Someone in the crowd pointed to the flame and said, "Do you need to say that? This flame also has a faint pill fragrance. Everyone knows that this is the pill fire left behind by that pill sage." Someone immediately responded with disdain. "Fragrance? Heavenly fragrance. That woman." A man in brocade clothes subconsciously murmured after hearing the pill fragrance. Immediately he understood something, and his expression changed. He immediately rushed out of the crowd and frantically rushed towards the direction of the furnace sand. Chapter 944. Seeing the brocade-robed man leave in a hurry, the golden-robed man standing next to him frowned. He didn't understand what the brocade-robed man meant. At this time, everyone was in a hurry to come here, but he chose to stay far away. What's Mu Yuxiong doing? The golden-robed man asked in confusion. He knew his companion's character very well. He wasn't a person who was willing to suffer a loss. Pill Sage's pill furnace hadn't appeared yet, so how could he leave? The brocade-robed man's slightly excited words before he left had obviously been heard by someone. Now that the golden-robed man asked, the cultivator who heard his words smiled and said, "He missed a woman. He said heavenly fragrance. And that woman ran away. Hee. It seems that women are more important than the heavenly fire and Pill Sage's pill furnace." The cultivator was only able to finish half of his sentence when he suddenly stopped. Heavenly fragrance, that woman. Was it a woman with the heavenly fragrance body? With Mu Yuxiong's character, facing the temptation of Pill Sage's pill furnace and heavenly fire, if a woman with the heavenly fragrance body really appeared, then it would explain why he left. Although there were Pill Sage's pill furnace and heavenly fire here, there were still many powerhouses here. There were too many people and too little meat. Whether they could get a share or not was another matter. If a woman with the heavenly fragrance body really appeared, then wouldn't it be just an opportunity? It would be like a pie falling from the sky. It was something that one couldn't even dream of. A woman with the heavenly fragrance body was equivalent to countless Tao fruits. It was equivalent to easily advancing to the Tao-confirming realm. Even if it was scrapped and sold, it would still be an incalculable amount of wealth. Almost in an instant, the surrounding cultivators understood. Dozens of figures rushed out and followed the direction that Mu Yuxiong left in. They might not be strong enough to snatch the pill furnace, but as for snatching a woman with the heavenly fragrance body, so what if they couldn't snatch it? As long as they could get a cup of blood, it would be a big profit. Ning Cheng's cultivation had already reached the full circle of the eternal realm. This time, he used his essence spirit to improve the mysterious yellow bead's 5 elements origin. As his foundation continued to repair, his meridians reformed, and his essence spirit went beyond his corporeal body. After the purple mansion fused with the mysterious yellow bead, the origin aura allowed Ning Cheng's essence spirit's Tao charm to flow more smoothly. It even turned into a substantial humming sound. The Tao charm chanting turned from vague to clear, before turning into a continuous stream of Tao patterns that circled around Ning Cheng's essence spirit, and repeatedly scoured Ning Cheng's essence spirit. Ning Cheng closed his eyes, while the life essence in his sea of consciousness started to solidify under the continuous scouring of the Tao patterns. Vital energy flowed within the body of the primordial spirit, as if the next moment, the primordial spirit would transform into the next physical body. As the Tao charm continued to hum, Ning Cheng felt the strength of his essence spirit continue to soar. At this time, Ning Cheng suddenly had an inexplicable thought in his heart. His essence spirit was too fragile, and could not withstand the scouring of this Tao charm. As such, he needed a more powerful essence spirit. At this rate, perhaps one day, his primordial spirit would be able to face an enemy alone. Ning Cheng had just thought of this when his life essence started to crack apart, causing bursts of tearing pain to erupt. Ning Cheng was a body-forging cultivator, so he had experienced the pain of thousands of ants gnawing at his heart. But even with all those pains added up, it was not even 1/10 of the pain of his essence spirit tearing apart. His essence spirit started to crack and twitch, and his corporeal body also started to tremble. If not for his perfect starry sky body, his corporeal body might have already collapsed under this terrible pain. Everything in the world wants to advance to the next level, to fuse the countless into one. A cultivator's nirvana is to reassemble the scattered understandings. The sea of consciousness's nirvana is to make the sea of consciousness free from cracks and fuse it into one. Now, with the supreme spirit essence separating from the corporeal body and essence spirit, the essence spirit can undergo nirvana and sculpt the Tao. The aura of Dao charm appeared in Ningcheng's consciousness, and Ningcheng clearly understood what his essence spirit was doing. It was moving according to his thoughts, a sign of nirvana and rebirth. The tearing pain made Ningcheng unable to think about why his essence spirit could undergo nirvana. He did not have the energy to think about it. All his energy was focused on the scouring of the Dao charm, which allowed his essence spirit to undergo nirvana and sublimate it once again. The mysterious yellow bead's origin aura and the Dao charm lingering around Ningcheng's body continuously scoured through Ningcheng's shattered life essence, allowing Ningcheng's life essence to reform. A burst of golden light, invisible to the naked eye, spread out around Ningcheng's life essence, causing Ningcheng's life essence to slowly stand up in his sea of consciousness. As his life essence became more and more solid, Ningcheng's life essence took a step forward. His hands made a mysterious gesture, and his mouth began to chant. The Tao is the resonance of the heavens and the earth. Billions of things merge into one, and then one can pry into success. A god is a fusion of flesh, blood, and bones, and is above the physical body. There were millions upon millions of living beings. It wasn't that they didn't want to, it was that they couldn't. Today, my Tao is to undergo nirvanic rebirth of the primordial spirit, and step above millions of living beings. Spirit is born from Tao, form is born from essence. This is the natural order of the world. However, the primordial spirit's nirvana, and the condensation of Tao aura is nothing. My Tao is formed from the primordial soul's nirvana. My Tao will be opened by me. My Tao is to return all things to one. My Tao has reached the peak of all Taos. The billowing Tao charm surged around Ningcheng's life essence. It was as if the heavens and earth were tumbling, and the momentum was astonishing. Within Ningcheng's starry sky sea of consciousness, this Tao charm kept churning and rumbling within it. This billowing Tao charm grew more and more solid. Even with Ningcheng's starry sky sea of consciousness, it couldn't stop the spread of this Tao charm. As the Tao charm grew stronger and stronger, Ningcheng's life essence became more and more solid. At the same time, the Tao charm was about to rush out of Ningcheng's sea of consciousness. Yanji untied Ningcheng from her back with some worry and held him in her arms. She felt that something was wrong. Ningcheng's entire body was trembling, and his muscles were constantly twitching. It felt as if someone was holding a knife and constantly cutting off strips of flesh from his body. Feeling the pain coming from Ningcheng, Yanji felt as if her heart was being cut by a knife. She couldn't wait to transfer all of Ningcheng's pain to herself. After experiencing this state for more than half an hour, Ningcheng's painful twitching finally settled down. Yanji also wiped the sweat off her face and breathed a sigh of relief. She picked up Ningcheng again and was about to carry Ningcheng on her back when a swift shadow suddenly appeared in front of her. When Yanji saw this figure, her heart suddenly trembled. She had seen this brocade-robed man before, standing together with a golden-robed man. That golden-robed man had killed more than 100 innocent cultivators with a single move. Ha 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 ha, remember, your man will be called Mu Yuxiong from now on. The brocade-robed man laughed when he saw Yanji. He once again felt that faint fragrance. That's right, it belonged to the woman in front of him. With his vision, how could he not see that the woman in front of him was a virgin? Seeing Yanji wearing a veil, he didn't even think about it and raised his hand to grab Yanji. Even if Yanji looked ugly, he wouldn't care. However, deep in his heart, he naturally hoped that this woman with the heavenly fragrant body would be more beautiful. After all, this woman would have to accompany him for as long as she was alive. Yanji saw the other party's handprint coming towards her and quickly retreated. It's just that her cultivation was too low. Facing Mu Yuxiong, who had already reached the Tao sculpting realm, her cultivation couldn't even compare. If the other party didn't allow her to move, she might not even be able to move. Rip. The veil covering Yanji's face turned into rags and dissipated. The lotus jade piece on her chest was already weak, but under Yanji's exertion, another crack appeared on it. This lotus flower jade piece could not help Yanji block the heavenly fragrant body. Now that another crack appeared on it, a very light and fresh fragrance came out. Ordinary people might not be able to smell it, but as a cultivator, they could immediately feel this fragrance. Mu Yuxiong stared at Yanji in a daze. He didn't think that Yanji would turn out to be so stunning. Even if he had seen too many beautiful women, he still couldn't help but feel shocked by Yanji's appearance. Only then did he notice that faint fragrance. That's right, it really was the heavenly fragrant body. Such a stunning woman with the heavenly fragrant body actually appeared in front of him. Thinking of this, Mu Yuxiong couldn't believe his eyes. He quickly reacted, and without even thinking about it, he directly grabbed towards Yanji. As for the Black and White Mountain Range's Pill Saints, Pill Furnace and Pill Fire, whoever wanted it could have it. It's not that he didn't want it, but he didn't have the energy to compete for it. With a woman with the heavenly fragrant body, haha. Bang. A sharp essence chi suddenly blasted over, and collided with Mu Yuxiong's handprint. It directly blew away the handprint that Mu Yuxiong had used to grab Yanji. Gu Jintan, what is the meaning of this? Mu Yuxiong looked at the golden-robed man in front of him with hatred. Not long ago, he was prepared to join forces with the other party to go to the Black and White Mountain Range. In just a short period of time, the people who joined forces had turned into enemies. The golden-robed male cultivator completely ignored Mu Yuxiong. After he blasted away Mu Yuxiong, he also directly grabbed towards Yanji. At this point, how could Mu Yuxiong not know that Gu Jintan also knew that this woman had the heavenly fragrant body? He no longer spoke any nonsense, brought out his weapon and started fighting with Gu Jintan. Even if the two of them did not directly attack Yanji, the aftermath of their fight still sent Yanji flying. She spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, and was seriously injured. Yanji tightly held on to Ning Cheng, her eyes filled with despair, because she saw more than a dozen people rushing towards them. These people were obviously here for her heavenly fragrant body. In just a short period of time, this place turned into the scene of a great battle. The cultivators who came over, in order to snatch Yanji, immediately started fighting. Every time someone came over to grab Yanji, a variety of attacks would immediately follow. These attacks might not be able to hurt the cultivators who tried to snatch Yanji, but it definitely caused Yanji's injuries to worsen. None of the cultivators who tried to grab Yanji were trying to save her. All of them wanted to take Yanji away, and make plans for their own cultivation. When they attacked, they naturally did not care about Yanji's life or death. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, Yanji's entire skeleton was completely shattered by this unexpected disaster. Another two essence chi collided in front of Yanji, causing her to spit out another mouthful of blood. She looked down at Ning Cheng and muttered, "In that case, let's go together." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.